That's on me.
This is a Jesse Jackson moment.
we we are we are on and live. Welcome to All Politics Are Local, America's number one political hip hop talk show, and we have a wonderful show tonight. We're starting off with our monthly pastrami over politics. I was very close to going to get some pastrami today, but just did not get a chance. So I'm just gonna have this wonderful New Orleans style of red beans and rice. So I'll be doing that because it smells so good. Wife's from New Orleans.
Is that really what you
Huge
eating?
shout
Beans?
out.
You eating beans?
Not just beans, red beans and
Red
rice.
beans and rice.
Red beans and rice. New Orleans specialty.
Zahir, you hear that over pastrami, Zahir?
But we'll
Listen, happy New Year's, fellas, man. Welcome to the new year.
That's right. Welcome to the new year. Well, let me just finish the full rundown. We got this pastrami. We have pastrami over politics with Rahaman Muhammad and Alturrick Kenney coming on, and at 7 o'clock we're going to have Chairman Lawrence Hamm of People's Organization for Progress, and Dr. Kelly Harris, the staff director of Africana Studies at the University of Pennsylvania, and of course Lawrence Hamm, who is the chairman of People's Organization for Progress. At 8 p.m., we're going to have Stolen Lives Project induction ceremony. We're going to have activists, October 22nd Coalition activist Kathie Cheng talking about the Stolen Lives Project induction. The Stolen Lives Project is one that documents everyone who was killed as a result of police brutality or police killing. And the project seeks to document the lives of everyone killed by law enforcement from 1990 to the present. So we have a stack show, and of course DJ Rhino in the State of Hip Hop at 8:30. We got a stack show tonight, and of course we're starting off with pastrami over politics in a new year. So welcome, welcome, Rahaman Muhammad and Alturrick Kenney.
Yeah, welcome everybody. Happy New Year's to everybody out there. I invited the chairman on tonight. Hopefully he get the invite and he decides to come on. I just wanted to kind of like discuss some things in the upcoming year and just have a conversation about, what do we expect? Well, we expect from our governor-elect who is getting sworn in North too, by the way, which is great, by the way. And they said her ball is going to be at American Dream Mall. Which I think is great, and and then we got this municipal election coming up, and there are a lot of people lining up to run. I think there's going to be some minor changes, at least on the council. So have discussion. Tariq.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to say assalamu alaikum. Today is Today's the second day of New Jersey Muslim Heritage Month, so I just wanted to make sure that we're not ignored. I know there's I want to make sure that we, recognize, and there's a lot of excitement that's happening throughout the country, and also a lot of things that we need to cover as well on a nationwide level that's happening, that's impacting us locally at the same time. So let's get it started. So Rahaman, let's talk.
Now, you said it's Muslim. Well, let's talk. I'm gonna throw some stuff into Muslim Heritage Month that you mentioned, because I think that's especially important just to highlight, given what's going on in some of the politics. But you threw the ball out. Let's jump in.
I think, John, that we should talk about Muslim Heritage Month to bring a little bit more. And I think Amina, Councilwoman Bay, is doing a lot of stuff around reminding folks on what month it is. And I just got a text from Kathleen Witcher, Sister Witcher, and she's asked me to do a few things and around that. I think they want to recognize some Muslims or give some Muslim stories, some successful Muslim stories. So I need to respond to that. Just so everybody know, I'm a little rough because I'm still on vacation. I start driving back tomorrow. I'm in Florida at my mother-in-law house. So I'll, start driving back tomorrow, begin my week back up in Jersey. But, I did want to talk about, what we looking forward to. We have the inauguration coming up with the governor in the city of North, which I thought was a great idea. I see a lot of people upset about that. I don't understand why. No.
Wait, why are people upset about the inauguration being inside North?
Yeah, I don't know, but I was listening to, especially the Jersey station 101.5, I would say the right leaning station. It seemed like a lot of people
is a long standing anti
right, right.
because of our black badass city. They just some white folks just can't stand
Yeah, it's like
us doing well in this town.
Yeah, I was listening to some of the posts
of the state. It should be anywhere but Newark.
Right. But I think she should be
that in chalk book. Am I right or wrong? Talk to me.
But I think that you should be able to get inaugurated wherever you want to get inaugurated. I was reading some of the posts on Facebook and on social media, and I'm like, bro, the races in this state is just horrible, man. The thinking behind why she come and have inaugurated, like she's everything in Newark. Folks, first of all, Newark contribute a lot to the state of New Jersey. Most of our property is tax abated because of government buildings that reside within our infrastructure, rather they're federal or state owned. But they complain,
right?
They're right. But they complain about their burden that they're paying. Like Newark is just they're paying, or we're getting our fair share for no reason. No. The government takes a lot of property, tax-free property from the city of Newark. We give a lot to the city, but to be honest, I don't even know why that's the conversation. I just don't understand the controversy around a governor deciding, by the way, who's from North Jersey, in Montclair, deciding that she wanted to come clearly close to her home. I mean, I would have been upset if she decided to have it in Montclair. I mean, I just don't understand, what the big issue is, but clearly there's some issues controversial by some people in the state. But I just want to give kudos to the governor-elect for choosing to come to Newark. I think it's a big step ahead that she recognized the importance of actually having a inauguration. Oh, and by the way, more people will be able to attend the inauguration, instead of just the same politicals that would attend if it was in Trenton.
Yeah, I think it's still what you said about, about being more accessible to majority New Jersey residents. As they say, people think Newark takes and we don't give. I mean, 24% we have 24 square miles, 16 of it is non-taxable, and majority of that money is spent throughout the state, whether the money goes to Port Authority, whether monies go to the federal government because we lease land. And so like it should happen in the city of Newark. It should happen in one of the most populous cities in the state of New Jersey that has access to mass transportation. So, we're excited about hosting, a governor here. I mean, she's supposed to be a governor of all people, and the people throughout the state are not having an issue with it. They just have to get over it and recognize that New Jersey is not just it's not a polarized state, as people want to be assumed, even though we have a lot of racial issues in the state. New Jersey and Essex County and Newark matters, and as Kenneth Gibson said, wherever Newark goes, the country goes. So it should happen in this, happen in a larger state, especially in our new facilities as well. And we're excited to have her here.
I can't hear you, Jonathan.
Now, do you know why she came here? Do you know, was it just more space? Is it symbolic? Is it like a nod to Newark, or is it just a bigger venue?
I mean, I don't know if I heard a reason on why she came in. I just think I heard her announce it. My assumption would be that she recognized that, one, she's closer to home. Two, that there's more access to people who normally would not go to inauguration. They have the ability to go to the inauguration. I think saying that the inauguration is kind of welcoming, inviting everybody, people that generally would not come. I think that's what she's doing. And I think she's, making a good step forward and trying to reach places that we criticized her for during the campaign, at least to the beginning of the campaign of her campaign, of saying we didn't think that she paid enough attention to urban communities. And so I would assume, I don't talk to her campaign, but I assume some of the thinking is around that, recognizing that, Newark and cities like Newark are important, a part of the state of New Jersey. And that, I think one of her commitments was, and as part what she said on the stage, and I think that's a step ahead of time in the right direction, her coming to here for the inauguration. That was that she heard you. I hear you, Newark. I think everybody should have a fair shot. And what's wrong with that? I mean, I think this is the the problem that, it seems like we're always fighting against something for our communities. Anytime someone take a step to our community, there are people behind that individual pulling them back. And it's the reason why I thought it was important that we have somebody from our community sitting in that seat, so that we didn't have to worry about that pressure being put on those people that they would expect. See, they don't expect Mikey Sherrill to come. That's the problem, Jonathan. That,
right.
You know what I'm saying? I think that certain individuals expect, oh, Mikey Sherrill won, great. Raz didn't win. Things are back to normal. Like, they don't expect, that her to come to the city. And so because she take a step in that direction, then she's, being met with controversy, or people, and I don't want to say the whole state, but a big portion of the state that's making complaints about it. To me, that is really petty. Who is she getting sworn in? Doesn't make sense to me.
Right, and especially because Newark is the largest city in the state, and it's central in terms of a location, it's central in terms of transportation, and it's a bigger venue. More things should be central to the city, and
Absolutely.
if it were not for this underlying racist hatred of Newark, and this traditional discomfort of leaving the city and this white flight, this expectation wouldn't be here, then it wouldn't even be a controversy.
Right. And to me, it seems like if this is a controversy, which is to me meaningless, where she get inaugurated, to me, although I think it's the right step, it's not, to me, I didn't even think it was that big. I mean, I think it's the right step, but why, if we're fighting about where she getting sworn in at, like, this is what I mean. Like, what is going to happen when she's trying to help the issues that we actually discussed and saying these things need to be paid attention to? Right, and who's going to be in the background opposing or trying to hold her back, or even in the legislature? And I think I would like for us to focus more on talking about the legislature and the fact that not only is she winning, but there are many people in the legislature that's going in the legislature that we need to pay more attention to the Senate and Assembly, and making sure we got fighters in there that's going to fight for what we need in our community, especially since they are our community representatives directly.
It's interesting because we talked many times during the election about not voting for the person who embodies everything in you, but voting for the person that you would most rather fight, the person who you would most rather push your issues with. You just talked about the legislature and the assembly. What are some of those issues that we either need to fight for or that are being fought for in the legislature that are catching your attention?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I don't know what they're fighting for, and this is the problem that I have with the state legislature, right? I would hope that we are fighting for economics in our community. That's the issue that I want to talk about. You know what I'm saying? Access to the ability to have small businesses, grants, resources for us to be able to begin to provide opportunities in our community that we don't have to keep depending on others to provide. And so I know housing is one of the issues that we need to be talking about, affordable housing, more job creation in the city, especially when it comes to, I would say more so, I'm hoping that there's an honest discussion in education about trades and getting more people into STEM type of programs, and that we have just as much as a conversation about that. Amari, you walking in my camera? That we have just as much as conversation about those type of programs as we have about kids going to college. So that we can kind of like level the playing field and giving kids these opportunities outside of just their ability to go to college. Because to be honest with you, in the city, no, most of them aren't choosing college, and we have to find another way. So, my two main issues, to be honest with you, is economics and education. The way we educate, you know what I'm saying? Not, to me, that's one of the things that I want to talk about.
Yeah, I think I'm sorry, wait, Jonathan.
No, you were saying.
No, so I was saying that one of the things that I know recently passed was the doula bill that passed during the dead session of the assembly, and that was something that was talked about. And the rest, Mayor Barack, when he ran for governor, raised the issue, and I know that was something that Assemblywoman Spade and also Senator Teresa Reeves talked about regarding making sure that maternal health was, an issue that was discussed, specifically that were impacting Black women. And I, wanted to say that's something that they decided to take on, and it's going to help, Black women and specifically, but women and also in urban spaces as well. I think one of the things that Rahaman talked about, which is interesting, there was a conversation literally a few days ago when Bernie Sanders talked about the biggest threat to our country in terms of our workforce is the AI, and how prepared are our young people for the new jobs of the future, and what Rahaman said about two things. One is a concern, are we identifying where the jobs are headed, and our children are actually prepared to take on those new jobs, where those jobs require us to pursue or ensure that our children have access to college if they choose to have access to college or choose to go to college, or in a vocational trade. And I think one of the things that was talked about during the campaign, and especially people in the Assembly and the Senate, was to make sure that vocational opportunities, certified vocational opportunities was available for young people throughout the state to make sure that they're prepared for the workforce, to replace an older generation of workers and also introduce a new generation of employees that need to take on these new opportunities. And I think the third thing they talked about during the campaign was this massive increase in our energy bills. I know I talked to Big Pin when I saw him he represents PSCNG. I ran up to him. I said, "Hey, listen, man, you got to help us with these costs in our PSCNG bills because it just went up for a lot of New Jersey residents." And I know they talked about, specifically my bill went up by almost 20%. And I know that's felt throughout the state. And the question is why? How can we reverse course? And so AI centers throughout the state, is one of the biggest issues that's increased our energy costs. I know that's something that the Cheryl campaign talked about. I know that's something that Bernie Sanders said that he wants to put a moratorium on. And that's something I think that, that this legislator has to address is like the rising costs, that's happening throughout the state, whether it was an increase in housing at an affordable rate. How do we deal with this energy cost? How we make New Jersey much more affordable. And I think those are things that our assembly, our senator, as well as our new governor has to make sure they would address in the next 4 years. Your microphone's
John, we
off,
can't
John.
hear you. Your mic go.
I keep forgetting to jump back in. When you're talking about AI and you're talking about data centers, that's all over the country. My sister is fighting to push back against data centers in Atlanta, outside of Atlanta. All over the country, they're building up centers, often largely in Black communities, because they use large amounts of water. And so there are two issues that are going on. One, and we're going to have this in Newark because we've got a lot of clean water. Everybody's always trying to come for our water.
Sure.
And people, before not more than 20 years ago, Newark was trying to sell its water. Private individuals were trying to buy it. Given what's going on right now with data centers all over the country, that's coming to Newark as well. So that we are, because it uses lots of clean water, there's a potential to damage the clean water that you have. And there, as you pointed out, and Rahaman pointed out, it doesn't seem like rocket science that when you increase demand drastically for data centers, then you increase the demand for electricity, prices go up, right? So if we're not seriously looking at making these corporations pay, or people who are running data centers pay for the energy costs, or even doing, as Bernie Sanders talking about, a moratorium on it, just to study, because we don't even know the impact. We're speculating on the impacts of water, and we're speculating on the impacts of electricity to some extent. These are things that communities have noticed. These are things that communities are pushing back against. And I think it's going to be very important that we have legislators who are going to stand up for those issues. They're not just going to pay off, because we know that also there's a lot of money in making sure that there's no regulation of AI. There was an executive order passed by the Trump administration trying to push for states not to take any action to regulate AI. Why would he do that? Because he knows that these natural questions are coming up more and more all over the country, and they're trying to handcuff people before these fights even begin. But yeah, those are some things that definitely we have to have more conversations about. And I know when we have legislators on here soon, we're going to be talking to them more about like what are some of the things that are being pushed to take this to account for communities who might be vulnerable. And I do think Newark, in particular, because of the clean water that we have, and because our water supply has always been a target, that we definitely have to be ahead of this issue and understand that people are going to be knocking on the door if they're not already here.
The other issue, though, is I think that we have to be clear that AI is coming, and well, it's here already. And if we don't begin to understand that, then we're not properly training or preparing our kids for what is happening in the future. Now, I don't know what I mean, because I just have fun around with AI. It's not really a career for me. But the reality of the matter is that in the future, it is going to be a career. And I think there was someone that said they're going to make more AI millionaires in the future than, you know what I'm saying, anywhere else. So I think we have to begin the process of understanding what that is. How does it look? What actually going to, because I really don't understand AI other than what I'm doing with AI. And I know it's deeper than that. And so we have to expose these kids to what is happening with AI and the potential so that they can prepare themselves. And that conversation has to happen in the school system.
Yeah,
Honestly,
I think there was a task force that was started by Murphy a few years ago in 2020. Governor Murphy in 2023 to talk about the job displacement, that's happening, especially how it's going to impact low income communities. That we have our children. And the other question is that our children prepared not only from the operational side of it, but manipulating data. Our kids have the math aptitude to ensure that they are on the side of manipulating the data to ensure that they are part of the wealth generation, the wealth impact as well. Because one of the things that we noticed over the past few years, there's been a greater increase in wealth impact as a result of AI. That's not really trickling down, and I think those are one of the biggest concerns that we have to talk about. Well, obviously, is the job loss, the AI impacts. But the question becomes: are we going to start preparing our workforce, our adult age workforce, and also our workforce who are coming behind us to ensure that they're able to be a part of the wealth creation, to ensure that they're able to take advantage of this new spring of wealth that's going to come as a result of wealth from AI.
It's interesting. As an educator, my stance on that might be a little bit different. I think that technology is going to evolve and change. I think the
It
kids are
always
already
does.
ahead of
Yep.
the adults anyway. I think that and yes, do kids need to learn how to use the latest technology like a calculator and like AI is the new calculator. The internet was the new calculator. Being able to do web design, the new calculator, right? Like the technology is always going to change and adapt. I think the most important thing to teach is still critical thinking. It's still how do you make an argument? How do you argue for or against something? How do you problem solve, right? And what are the steps for problem solving? I think that those things are foundational to everything else.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I think that yes, we're worried about the technology, but I think worrying about the problem solving ability is really going to solve for all of that because we use tools as we need them. And these tools are going to constantly shift and change. We're never going to teach in school. By the time we start teaching computer programming in school, is obsolete. By the time we start teaching like the minutia of what it is, it's already past that point because people are learning these things on their own because they have the critical thinking skills to be able to take and process information and process things on their own. And I think that has to always be first and foremost whenever we're talking about these new technologies. Give them access to it, but don't think that acts. But understand that what that looks like right now is not the same as it will look like 2 years from now, 3 years from
Sure.
now, right?
But
Never mind 5 and 10 years.
But see, John, that's the issue. They're not utilizing education to do this. Right now, we have an edict, a command from Department of Labor. They pushing a lot of these programs through Department of Labor. They've abolishing the education department and the thing. A lot of the money that he's took away from the education department and the federal government, they're putting in the Department of Labor. We right now have an edict to spend 20% of our resources, 20% of our resources on getting our population taught in AI. 20%. That's a lot. And so, you know, they're planning, you know, I don't know what the future AI or what they plan on doing with AI, how it's going to be utilized. Like I said, other than the little gadgets that I play with. But it's clear that there is a bigger plan, a strategy out there that we have to be made aware of. Anytime you ask us, I don't really get letters. We don't really get letters from the Department of Labor saying spend 20% of your resources on this. They asked to spend 20% of the resource. That means if they send us $10 million, then we have to spend $2 million on finding teaching programs for AI. Oh, and not just for young folks too, by the way, for whoever wants to be a part of that workforce.
Which is everybody right now.
Which is everybody right now, right? So we have to be real clear about what direction they're going on. I don't even know if they're depending on the educational system to begin to teach them. I think they recognize what you're saying, that the educational system will always fall back on what it always has, and that's critical thinking, and that they have to find another way to do that. They recognize, like most of us recognize, that the majority of the people that finish high school are not going into college. And a lot of them utilize these workforce programs to find employment opportunities. And, you know, they're putting money behind that. So we do have to be very serious about understanding what this is, because I still don't know what it is. One of the reasons why I even start researching it is because of that letter I received, by the way. So we clear. Okay. That's the only reason why I even started doing what you see me doing.
You mean all those posts with
the videos,
the pictures and dancing in the background.
Like a lot of time when you see me doing that, is because I'm actually practicing prompts, because I'm taking an online course on AI on my phone, by the way. And the only reason why I took it is because when you send me a letter saying you have to spend 20% of your resources on finding programs that teach AI, I really don't know what they're talking about. So I'm trying to learn it, so that if somebody come to me with a program, I'm not spending money just on wasting it, that I understand a little bit about what we actually looking for to spend that money on. Like, we get a lot of money for workforce programs. And the city, if I got to spend over $1 million of my budget on AI program, on AI funding, I don't want anybody to just come, hey, I got an AI program and I want you to fund it. I need to know what that is. So I can make sure that if we put somebody in it, they're actually getting something out of it. So that's the only reason why I even picked it up in the first place, is because of that letter. Because I'm like, okay, so what is this? I don't even know what it is.
So to your point, Jonathan, and to Rahaman, so part of like the AI conversation, I don't want to dominate this. I just want to, just hit and go forward. But part of it was, in terms of a skilled workforce, obviously critical thinking is one of the most important tools. But the other part of it is just what I'm learning through just being a parent and having my children in these maths concentrated programs. Like a lot of our kids, like I don't see a lot of, unfortunately, Black kids in these programs. And they may be, I don't want to use generalizations, but I just know the program that my children currently participate in, they're literally preparing these kids to do linear algebra, calculus, geometry, geography, all this other, not geometry, but these sort of math programs at a very young age. And I'm not talking about the end user part of it, where you want to rock my side of it, how to create videos. But the question becomes, what algorithms do you need to input to make sure that you're able to do the coding that Jonathan said at some point is going to be obsolete, but remain current, because it takes a lot of concentration in math. That's the sort of reference that I'm referring to in terms of that we have to make sure that we have to meet the workforce where it's headed, and that our children are actually following that workforce. One is obviously, the critical thinking skills and just have an aptitude of what's happening in the world around them. But the other one is just having the pragmatic skills of knowing the math that's required to make sure they're not left behind in terms of the workforce aspect of it. And so we have to be ahead of that curve. And that's the reason why I said the piece about making sure that, our children are skilled up, in terms of just having the basic math aptitude to ensure that they're able to meet the workforce where it's headed.
I had a really great calculus teacher, and I was struggling in calculus in my senior year, just struggling. Like I couldn't get it. And she was like, not at all, right? Like I couldn't. And she was like, she was like, you should be able to get calculus. Like you're really good I was on the debate team then. And she was like, you're really good at debate. You're really good at debate. You should be able to get calculus. I'm like, look, I'm good with language. You can give me almost anything with language, and I could do it, right? I could manipulate language left and right in my sleep. But math, I just can't do it with math. I can't do it with just numbers. And she was like, but you're good with languages. And then she was like, math is a language.
It is a language.
It has its own grammar. It has its own vocabulary. And the only thing, and she said, and I can teach you, and if you get that math is a language, I can teach you to BS on a math exam like you do on an English exam. And I was like, wow. And I think what you're talking about, right? In a certain level of the way we talk about math and the humanities, I think it's all the same. We're teaching kids how to use critical thinking skills in different subjects, right? And math is a language, right? Like I didn't even know this until a couple of years back, and I saw this little documentary on how bees speak to each other, and apparently bees speak to each other in like math language, right? Like they do little calculations and they do little dances that are actually mathematical calculations, and that's how they communicate. And it's like, wow, that is a universal language, right? And so I think that the way that we should be looking at education, the way that we should be thinking about it is always we are teaching kids to make arguments in various languages and settings.
I like that. That's good. I like that.
And when you're dealing with the language of math, right? I think that it is giving kids that basic foundation so that they can be flexible with the new technology. The new technology is always going to be a tool for people who will lead. It's like having an Android, right? Like I love science fiction, love Star Wars, love R2D2, and I think the tech developers and creators love it too, because that's why Android, Droid, right? Like they're using the language of science fiction even in the way we create the new technology, and I think artificial intelligence isn't any different from that. It tries to make things more convenient. So programming is more convenient because things can think faster and solve those equations faster, but you need to tell it what to do. And I think that the more that we know, and I agree with everything of what you're saying in terms of we need to have more money in being able to use it. And I would compare it to using AI as a souped up understanding of how to use Microsoft Office. As in, we didn't know how to use Microsoft Office, and we're behind the game. Now everybody uses Microsoft Office.
Yeah.
Everybody knows how to use spreadsheets. Everybody knows how to use word processing software and PowerPoint, and it makes our jobs easier. Years ago, we'd have to hire out. You'd have to put that stuff out, hire somebody to type up stuff for us, to do editing. We do all that much faster based on the technology that makes us more efficient. I don't see AI as any different. And I think you're right. We just need to have more exposure to the programs so that people will take it and run and do their own thing with it. And doing that on the education side, but at the same time, making sure that on the community side, we don't let them take up and mess up our water and make our electricity prices go through the roof without holding them accountable for it. So it's kind of like all that together at the same time.
I'm surprised Rick gave you the AI. Rick wasn't the one that told you it was AI. I hope, because I heard a different story in the summertime. So I hope that's not the new one. No, on the electric bills, Alturrick.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm big fan. Oh yeah, no, it's so. I just had to run up on them. I said, "Yo, my electric bill went up by 17%."
I ran up on them too, bro. It
wasn't the most civil conversation. I mean, he started getting it all throughout the state. I'm like, my bill went up 17%. Jonathan,
you said Rick, who are you talking about?
Rick Finn. He's the government affairs person for PSE&G.
Okay.
Yeah, and so we had to run up on them, Jonathan. I'm like, my bill went for one number. I don't even want to tell you my number is right now, because you're like, that's crazy, but it just went up a lot.
$1,000 a month, right?
I'm sorry.
It goes up. A lot of people's electric bills are going to over a G.
Yes.
Listen. Mine went up over 100%. I don't know. He talking about 7. I wish mine only went up 70%. In that store, it went over 100%. I was paying $800 a month in June. I was paying $1,700 in July. So
wow.
Yeah, Right, exactly. So I'm trying, like I told Rick, I'm trying to find out where the 17% increase come from, because I went from 800 to 1700. So they charged me a big portion of that was a delivery fee. So it wasn't even it wasn't even the electricity that you were utilizing. It was the delivery fee. The delivery fee alone was like $700-800. The delivery fee.
That you're talking about delivering oil?
No,
electricity.
Delivery fee. They have a delivery fee on your electric bill. There's a delivery fee, and my delivery fee went from prior to June, it was $200 for the delivery fee, and June went up to I think $800 for a delivery fee. Delivery fee. That was not the
Did you find did they? Of course, I assume that when you saw that $800 delivery fee, you made a phone call and you were like, what this said delivery fee, and why is it so
well, they were saying because it's summertime and everybody got the air conditioner on, it costs more money to deliver the services during that time. So if you using a lot of your air conditioning, and I'm in the store, so I have to use my air conditioning constantly. So because I had my air conditioner on constantly in the store, I'm saying the delivery fee was more expensive. But that's crazy. That was the delivery fee. That wasn't the usage charge. That was the delivery fee.
And Rock wanted to turn the lights off in the basement, so also my bill goes up as well. So I want to give a commercial real quick. Please contact New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, and we should get some money back. I called them to make sure that I was able to complain about my energy bill. A live person actually returned my phone call and walked me through the process of getting a residential energy assistant, go through the residential energy assistant program, REAP, to get some of my money back. So you reap what you sow. So call the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities, tell them about your increase in your bill. They'll actually give you a digital card, and they'll give you some money back, but it's obviously not going to wipe out what you put in. But it's just some ways to use current New Jersey services to get some money back on your utility bill. So I called and returned my phone call, but remember, call New Jersey Board of Public Utilities and use their program to get some money back on your electricity bill.
All right, John. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say this segments into what we're talking about in terms of the state legislature, because the very first thing the governor is supposed to do is something along the lines of getting you your money back. Did you hear about
freezing the rate? I think.
Yeah, freezing your electricity rate.
Yeah, I don't know how she can do that, but that's what she said she was going to do. But even Phil Murphy says he don't understand how, that's going to happen. But I don't want to dwell on that too much. I just, I want before we get off, I wanted to talk about this upcoming election in the city of Newark, because we do have municipal elections. The mayor is running for re-election, and all council seats are up, and it is about to be Jody Vincenzo just announced yesterday that he's running for re-election. He did a video. He did it through video that he's running for seventh term. I didn't, the crazy thing, because I'm not opposed to him running, but I was looking on the comments for the backlash that he would get, they would do everybody else that was not, that was of our persuasion. And I didn't see any, what I'm saying? All I seen was a bunch of love and support, and kudos to the brother. But I mean, when it comes to our people, it seems like we're a little bit more harsh on ours, but I don't see us doing the same with other folks, which is really something to see. You know what I'm
saying? Here's the question: is anyone running against him? Is this going to be an election?
Yeah, I don't think no one's running again. I don't think none of them ready to beat him, to be honest with you. And listen, I've said to people all the time, I think that for the job of county exec, it's supposed to thing. I think Joe D's done a great job at it. So you won't hear no argument from me about what other than the disparity study, which I'm still upset with them about. I think beyond that, I think he's done a great job. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. Yeah, go ahead.
But you say other than the disparity study, right? Isn't yes.
Well, the disparity study big to me now, so I don't. That's huge.
But right. So when you're dealing with one of the most important things any executive does is it controls resources and contracts.
Right.
Like that's one of the most important things
Right.
that they do. Yes, they make sure snow is up. They make sure that the garbage is taken care of. They make sure that in terms of the county, the parks, etc. They make sure that the county roads are done well. The county colleges, county board of education, but in all of that, right? In every single one of those responsibilities are contracts.
Right.
Well, whether it be
I agree. Right.
Education contracts. Now, this seems to be a major issue. This was an issue. You've talked about this extensively. And there are fewer contracts to Black people in the county now than there were 30 years ago. And you've talked about that a lot. How much of a big deal is that going to be in this campaign?
Well, to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to be a big deal. I mean, if you don't have competition, if you don't have anybody who is saying, I mean, you got a few people that speak out publicly about it, like myself. You know what I'm saying? I don't see a bunch of people, speak. I think that if it wasn't for me making a huge issue out of it, the way I've been doing on social media, by the way, and people just paying attention to it and other people jumping on the ship and saying something, I don't really think that it would have become a big issue. I still don't think that it is going to be a big issue. I think people talk about it, but I mean, he don't have competition. There's no real serious threat out there to the brother, so I don't see it becoming an issue. It should be, what I'm saying, in our community. But the deal is that we shouldn't always put the weight just on him. We have commissioners, county commissioners, that we need to also hold some responsibility to this.
And county commissioners are like what used to be called the freeholders.
The freeholders, right.
Essex County, but now they are county commissioners.
They come out of commissioners, right?
Essex County.
So I don't want to put the burden just on Joe DiVincenzo. I want to also put some weight on these county commissioners. I think that ultimately at the end of the day, hold on for a minute, John. Mom
says she needs to speak with you.
And I know that when you're
Jonathan, go ahead, because I gotta talk to my daughter right quick. I'm going.
No,
I'm a mute. Go ahead,
okay.
Alturrick, if you got something to say, go.
Yeah, I was gonna actually offer, since because I'm in the position I'm in right now as surrogate. So one of the things I was able to do was just introduce to a number of local minority vendors, what exists and what they should apply to, and then get them into the pool legally, obviously, and make sure that they were able to pursue work, from the county, whether it was a cleaning, contract, whether it was the PR who does, a lot of our communications, on our surrogate website. And if you look at it, it was done by Tara Dardell Group. And also the person, Icon Media, does our material and, for our outreach initiatives. And so we sort of ensure that we're able to say, hey, listen, participate in some of the things that are happening. And I think that we have to, as constitutional officers and directors, that's why I don't want to say just one space. We as also elected officials, we have to make sure that we're able to pull people in to get them into the process, to make sure that they're able to pursue the work that is happening in the county. And I think that is one of the biggest issues. And I hope that, Renee Burgess, who actually works in the SBA, with the county of Essex, she's also our state senator. She's able to help make sure that, more Black contractors, or more Black vendors are able to get opportunities to work in the county. And I think that's something that we have to do, whether it's from a director side of it, or the constitutionally elected people, or even our older freeholders, current commissioners, able to make sure that they would have these sort of conversations, and then also hold the administration, accountable and work with them. I know one of the biggest models that's happened that I've witnessed, to give more Black vendors, opportunities, and local Black vendors, was Mayor Baraka, in the city of Newark, or even what Mayor Green is doing in East Orange, is to make sure they create pipelines that Black vendors, one, can apply. Well, first of all, they're aware of opportunities, get them qualified, get them through the process, and also bid on those opportunities. And I think what's happening in Newark, and then what's happening in East Orange, and also Irvington, I should say, also in Irvington and Orange, the urban Essex, I should say, are doing, great jobs. But now the county just has to model those sort of things that happen administrative wise to make sure that people are able to get those sort of opportunities as well.
And here's a question I have. And Alturrick, I realized recently that you have just an incredible memory for things that happen, right? Like for different legislative, for different policy things that happen. There in Newark, when there were the huge issues with water and pipes had to be changed, the men's meetings were used to help train people to be able to, what do you need to do to get contracts?
Yeah.
Even early in the Barack administration, I remember even talking about helping people get contracts to make socks for
Yeah.
St. Barnabas, and getting contracts for the large vendors in Newark, the people, the institutions in Newark that spend a lot of money to see what they needed and to try to pair them with people in the city. The first question I have for you is, can you describe to me, and Rahman, also you as well, can you describe for me what happened in that process? And it started when Barack was first elected, but really, I think, ramped up around the men's meetings and around the water replacement.
Yeah. So
Can you talk to us more about that?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Rahaman talk about it from the operational side of it. But I know when Ras came into office, one of the first things he was created was the Rahaman's position. Deputy mayor for full employment. That position didn't exist under the James administration, didn't exist under the Book administration, didn't exist at all. Which is how do we find jobs for Newark residents? Then the second thing was also able to create was Newark 2020 and another program that talked about getting Newark 2020 was a program that was created to get Newark businesses that are housed in the city of Newark, the Audibles, the PSC&G, even Newark Port Authority was also part of this Port initiative to make sure that they're able to get Newark residents jobs. But it didn't just stop there. It was also, how do we get those individuals who, when Ras came into office, created these men's meetings? How do we expose them to this sort of conversation? How to become a vendor? Because we all know that jobs do not make you wealthy at all. You can't create wealth out of jobs. And so it was, how do you become a part of the vending pool, in these public institutions and private institutions? And so through these men's meetings, Ras was able to get his directors, whether it's from the procurement side of it, this is how you're able to become a part of the vending process. How are you able to be a part of the minority vending program that the state of New Jersey become qualified for, and then also how are you able to apply for little work? So some people are saying, well, I sell toilet paper, or let me back up. The mayor might say, we need to buy toilet paper. Does anybody in this room sell it? And then the question becomes, if you don't sell it, how are you able to create a company to become a vendor to sell toilet paper to the municipality? And that sort of conversation was able to encourage the local businesses, because the city can't hire everybody, the local businesses to jump in and say, well, we want to buy toilet paper, as a part of Audible or Blue Cross Blue Shield or PSC&G or Mars, right? How do we able to buy toilet paper from the vendor? And I think those sort of initiatives, going from the grassroots level, talking to people about their interests. They want to do business. They just don't know how. Then the other question is the paperwork process of it. And I think what Mayor Baraka did was revolutionary. Rather than have people sit in the offices and have people come to them at the men's meeting, they would actually talk to people where they are about how to qualify, to be a business. What steps do you need to take? And the people can actually do the work and see a real opportunity going from doing the paperwork to actually getting an opportunity that didn't exist previously, and then taking large contracts and help them break down to smaller spaces. And I think then COVID occurred, then then the pipes that need to be changed with the water crisis that happened. And so through Mayor Baraka's initiative, he had a pool of people that he can pull from through these sort of men's meetings, to not only say, well, if there's a need, we have a pool of qualified vendors to pull from, that they homegrown, they created, just through conversation. And then people who have the entrepreneurial spirit were able to apply for those sort of opportunities. And I think, to me, I've never seen that before, any government to go from there's a need, and how do we create a pool of individuals in the city that they manage, to go to them and have a grassroots effort in terms of creating vendors that are able to apply for work in the cities that they live. But I know Rahaman did it from the operations side of it, and he's responsible for signing off as well.
So let me say, so I think the good thing that Mayor Baraka did when he first came to office was, the best thing he did was there were always weekly meetings with directors, as far as the concern with the BA. But I think what the mayor did was he had a weekly meeting.
BA is business administrator.
The business administrator. I think what he did was he created a meeting that with him and the directors and the BA. So it was, where though in the past, administration allowed for the BA to pretty much police the directors and to have a conversation about what was going on, whatever. So the message was passed from the mayor to the BA, from the BA to the director. And I think what this mayor did successfully, and I think this is the reason why he has a lot of his success, is that he's more hands-on. He's actually in the meetings weekly. And one of the things that he did when we first came in was he focused on procurement. When we came in, the city of North procurement for minority vendors was 3%.
And
procurement is where you get the contracts. It's the vendors and how you how we get business done within the city. And he had a study done when he first came in and found out that only 3% of business was going to minority vendors when he came in, and he concentrated on that every single week. He pushed that. He asked for KPIs in regards to how we improve it. He made suggestions. He was on his procurement process to make sure that they included more people. The men's meetings was a tool for him to bring more people into the audience and bring in folks that understood procurement, people that understood contract and how to register your business, and for them to get opportunity. Listen, and we still have pushback from that. Right now, if you listen to the council meeting, you have people get up there and complain about minority developers getting land or minority. I need y'all to understand this. Like, this is the craziness, because the election is coming up, and I want to understand some of the gripes of the so-called the opposition that's out there. One of their biggest issue is that he's helping minority vendors. They claim that these are his friends, and I don't care if he know them or not, by the way. That's not the point. And they get up there in the council and they say, these folks, this is illegal. That's not illegal for the mayor to want more minorities to get opportunities in the city. He never asked anybody to do anything illegal. He never turned around and did a pay to play or I'm gonna give you this if you give. That's not. He's asking his directors, his city, his administration, that I need you to help more minorities become developers and vendors so that they can get contracts and see. And that is above board. But we have people that will actually complain and try to make that's something illegal, that something is wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And why is it that when we try to get a little piece of something, because it's still not much, by the way, compared to the development that goes on in the city, what Adina get or what the brother get or what my brother Abby's getting or what any of these brothers is getting is still peanuts compared to the work and the stuff that is happening within the city that has happened in the past, that we have been locked out or no one has taught us the process of getting that. He needs to do more of that, and he wants to do more of that. There's nothing illegal about that. And I don't care what anybody say and try to push and make that a narrative that there's somebody that, no, there's not. He has every right to ask his people that work for him to help people who have normally been locked out the system to get something or get at least a fair shot at getting something.
The former mayor of Atlanta who helped build the airports in Atlanta, Maynard Jackson, right, was famous for getting contracts to people in Atlanta so that they can create a more thriving Black middle class. What I was saying, what I was pushing is can we talk about like that a lot more as a program to be demanded on the county level as well. Like they're like it's Essex County. There's no reason why this can't be pushed even more on a local level and even more on a county level. Like in terms of the same thing, we are in terms of demanding like, hey, what are some of the what are these conversations we're having in terms of businesses, et cetera? Where are these opportunities? Where are these vendors? And let's put people in place in a way that upscales the model that's currently being used.
Jonathan, this is not how politics works. Unfortunately, people push policies and programs that's important to them. It is clear based on the fact that we got less than 1%. I want to keep reminding people this of the contract within this county that's not important to them. And the only way that things become important to people is there's someone who believes that they got something to lose if they don't make it important. And what do they have to lose? You know what I'm saying? There's no threat there. There's nothing there to make people say, I want to make that, I'm going to pay attention to that. There's nothing there. You know what I'm saying? And if
because
that does not exist,
you're saying that in the voting process, there's no one who's running, there's no one who's going
everybody
to make
falls
it an
right
issue.
in line. Listen, I'm gonna say it again. Go look at his video that he posted up. Oh, congratulations, Joe. Thank you. And like I said, I'm gonna say it again. Other than a disparity study, I don't think the guy has done a bad job. You know what I'm saying? And the disparity study is huge to me, especially now in my life. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, there's no pushback, there's no threat, there's no and listen, I'm gonna say it again. Billions of dollars have been in this county, building this county over. Billions of dollars have went into building this county up. Billions of dollars. We've got less than 1% of that billions of dollars, folks. And where do you think that other money went to? So the priority is clear that it's not our community. And if we don't enforce that, and this is why I'm saying that it's important that the commissioners that's on there that are Latino and African American make that a priority, that they make that an issue, that they push that. You cannot, listen, I don't expect it to be Joe's issue. I'm sorry. I don't. You know what I'm saying? Like
because we elect the other commissioners that should be demanding.
Brother, I don't expect it to be his issue. It's not his community. You say what you want. The county say, all that sounds great. That's not his community, folks. You know what I'm saying? Our community have to make sure that we take care of us. And the problem is that we got individuals in our community that make sure they take care of them, but they won't make sure that they take care of the community.
So, Rahaman, I want to also share one thing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know we're running toward the
Sure.
end of this cycle. I just want the two of you to close it out while we get our next guest in.
Go ahead. I'll use my.
No. I was just going to share with Jonathan, while you were on break, that it's also on me as well as a in my position is to identify and do the same thing that that we're expecting Joe and other people do, and I think they're open to it, right? So I know that one of the commissioners, when I was petitioning for some opportunity for people who do work in our court, they say, hey, listen, we have some individuals, and it was brought to their attention, they were open to it. I think that RAS is different though, right? So I don't want people to think that, to expect someone to be RAS is just to give people a different level of expectation, because he's just a different, like what we have amongst us is a different type of person. And I think that we have to sort of have commissioners and people like myself, who are in those positions, say we got to push to have people to be in those spaces to get those sort of opportunities as well. So I don't disagree with what you're saying, Rahaman. I just think that this RAS, that model, that RAS, because no one raised the issue, right? In years, because we've been in politics for years, and no one's really raised the issue at the level that's RAS raised it on a gubernatorial election, because what you said only became an issue when it was raised during the governor's race.
Right.
And no one talked about disparity study on a statewide level or even a countywide level, because it just wasn't important at all. And no one also realized there was legitimate consequences because we had a legitimate choice. And so I think one of the things that we have to do is continue to identify, vendors to get these sort of opportunities. But we also have to push on my level and make sure more people of color, well, more Black people, are able to get positions, to do work in the county.
All right, and Rahaman, we'll let you end it off.
Listen, I think that, as I said, I think it's important that moving forward, this year, that we hold more than just those individuals like Mike Estrella or the Joe G. Vicenzos of the world, accountable, that we elect other people that we put around them, that we entrust around them in the legislature and on the county commission board, that we need to hold their feet to the fire. And I think that we give them a pass too much as it pertains to their positions in office. And we focus on one individual. When the truth of the matter is that the individuals that we put there as a support system to them have to also ensure that these things take place. And so in the state legislature, we can force a conversation. It should be a forced conversation about the disparity study and how it is that we increase more minority participation. And once again, we ain't asking for nobody to give anything. You know what I'm saying? We asking for an opportunity, a fair chance. We want to learn. The other issue, though, Jonathan, is that we as African Americans and Latinos, we also have to, one of the things that I found out dealing with disparity studies or dealing with affirmative action is we don't do our paperwork. And listen, I'm guilty of this too. So I don't want, right, exactly how you see our outlook. And I think that a lot of reasons why the doors are locked on us because we don't have our stuff together. You know what I'm saying? We have not put our things together. And when you're talking about getting government grants, government contracts, government funding, any of that, your I's have to be dotted and your T's have to be crossed. There is no gray area in that. They know how to do that. They hire people, they put money behind folks to do that for them. Not the principal. The principal don't do it. They bring people on staff to do that stuff. We don't do that, Jonathan.
Right.
And because we don't do that, it locks us out of the process of being able to get, because they say, oh, well, this paperwork is not done. Oh, you haven't done this. Oh, you haven't filled out. Oh, you haven't. Right. And it's an easy out for them not to give it to us. And we have to make sure that if we want to go in this game, that we making sure that the paperwork, and I think what the mayor has done,
and that we understand the game, right?
He's teaching and making us understand what that game is, and that's what those meetings was about. So kudos to that brother.
Right, I just want to also push one back. I want to add one thing. It's a volume game as well. Raz has done. He increased the volume of people who are actually applying for those opportunities, and then from that pool of volume, he's able to get some quality applicants to go through. But I just want to share one thing. Zay, this is for you. I want to share this. I got this from. We just don't want to be in this line right here. I got that from God. The question is just don't be this guy and don't be that guy.
Okay.
We can't help the oppressor.
It looks like the long. See, one of the hidden arms of the slave trade was how people were brought in to the coast, captured inland, marched to the coast, and then put in the slave pens and then ultimately shipped abroad. That looks like a trail of captured Africans who were being brought to the coast to ultimately be shipped out.
Yeah. I thought you appreciate this piece right here.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
My brother
Absolutely.
Larry Hamm, what's good with you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey.
Hello, Mr. Harris. How you doing, sir?
Hey, brother Harris. All right.
Hey, so
Dr. Harris.
We will definitely continue these conversations. We'll probably have some people on next time that can from the political side who could speak even more to that. But thank you as always for coming in, bringing light. I didn't get the story this time, but I will double down next time on getting that story. Rahaman always has really great history of stuff that went on in Newark 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. That's always enlightening. So thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you both for being on.
Bring some food next time, Rocco, right?
All right. Take care.
Take care, fellas. Take care. Peace.
Take care. So that was a great segment. We are getting ready for the next segment. We're at the next segment of All Politics Are Local, and this is the first show of the year. And in this first show of the year, we should be talking about what's going down. These are two of my favorite people, really three, including Zay. But in terms of our special guests, two of our favorite people to have conversations with in terms of that prediction. What's going on? What do we need to work on for next year? I keep saying that we vote for the people that we prefer to fight because there's just a lot to be done And it seems like this year, no matter who gets elected, it seems like there's some fights that have to be had, and there are fights that are going on. So I'm gonna stop talking, and I'm going to present Chairman of the People's Organization for Progress, Larry Hamm, who has worked on mission after mission, cause after cause for over 40 years, and Dr. Kelly Harris, who is a who is a lecturer at the University of Pennsylvania and a staff director in the Africana Studies program at the University of Pennsylvania, who is always full of wisdom. We're also going to bring in a younger co-host, Drixon Kaiser, who is a young entrepreneur in the city. Hey, Drixon, welcome. We always like to have young people in the mix in a lot of these conversations as well. So,
yeah, how's it going?
Dr. Harris, Larry Hamm, what's up? 2026, what are you thinking about?
Go ahead, Larry. I defer to you first, brother.
Oh no, doctor, I should defer to you. Well, let me say this. Just to get things off, just to get the conversation going. Although it did not happen in our neighborhood, I think we would be derelict in our duty if we overlooked the swearing in of Zohran Mamdani as mayor of New York City and the implications and ramifications of that for American politics. I have looked at part of his speeches from yesterday, and I listened to the whole thing today. And I guess, Dr. Harris, you could talk about what jumped out at you. But what jumped out at me is that he said, I was elected as a democratic socialist, and I will govern as a democratic socialist. And I will not change my principles for fear of being called a radical. And it made me think back to when I was a delegate for Bernie Sanders at the 2016 Democratic Convention in Philadelphia. And I was there at the moment that Bernie Sanders did not get the requisite number of votes he needed to win the Democratic Party nomination. And I thought again to when I was the state chair for Bernie's second campaign in New Jersey. And that, I believe, was in 2020, and how Bernie had ended his campaign early because of a whole lot of things that, that's another discussion. And I thought of those two moments of defeat. And then I looked at what happened yesterday, and they're giving, I guess, a keynote speech before the swearing in of Mamdani was Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And then there was Bernie Sanders, who swore in Zohran Mamdani. And I think it is exemplary. It exemplifies the struggle, because a lot of people would not acknowledge this struggle. The struggle, the very intense struggle that has been going on in the Democratic Party between the left, the right, and the center of that party. And how ironic it was that in the very face of this fascist movement that exists in the United States today, where we have probably the most openly racist and contemptible president of our lifetime, leading a movement that is attempting to roll back, that is rolling back the gains that Black people, women, the working class, other oppressed sectors of the American population, the gains that they have made over the last 100 years are literally being erased before our eyes. And yet, in the face of that, someone who was literally unknown when he started his campaign for mayor yesterday was sworn in as the mayor and defeated everything that the establishment Democrats and the right-wing Democrats and their billionaire backers and their Zionist backers, everything that they could throw at him, he and his supporters were able to overcome. And I think it is a sign of what we will see in 2026. Because if you thought 2025 was a year of political cataclysm and catastrophe, just wait on 2026. This is going to be a year, I think, of fiery political struggle. And a lot of that is going to have to do with the midterm elections that are coming up, and the goal that we should have to snatch the majority away from the MAGA fascists that control the House of Representatives and the Senate. This is going to be a year of tremendous struggle, and so will the next 3 years, all the way through 2028. So that's I just throw that in the pot. I don't know if that's where you wanted to go, but yesterday was a historic moment.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of us do not really grasp the history. And this often happens to people in the midst of historical events. They themselves don't realize the profundity of the moment.
That's right.
And I thought yesterday was a profound moment. And I think it speaks to our politics here in New Jersey and throughout the nation. Dr. Harris, I'm sorry to drone on so long.
You hit all the right notes. You hit all the right notes. I think it was a historic moment. It's a moment that I was surprised by, to be quite honest. When Mamdani first got in running, I didn't think he would win. Just like I didn't think Obama would win. So I'm not a very good prognosticator.
I didn't either.
Yeah. So
right.
But it's a surprise in a moment that we really needed it. But not only New York, what's happened in New Jersey, what happened in Virginia, in Iowa, other down ballot races across the country. There have been victories for the left that we can't just gloss over. They're very important victories. And Chairman Hamm is right. 2026, this year, the midterm elections are extremely important, and it's going to be it's going to get nasty because the Republicans know, Trump knows how important these midterm elections are, and they're going to fight like hell to not allow the Democrats to regain control of Congress and to stop him from carrying out his agenda. But one thing that I'm going to be paying attention to, because, and again, Chairman Hamm laid it out so correctly, the fight that's going on in the Democratic Party, we have to go back and remember when Jesse Jackson first ran for president. And after Reagan had won, actually, just after he lost, when Reagan had won twice, the Democrats, formed the Democratic Leadership Council. And their goal was to take the party back from the people on the left. So they did.
By Bill Clinton.
That's right. That's right. They trotted out Bill Clinton, and they did. So we have to. So the Democrats are always very leery of the left. So we have to really see what's going to happen. We really should support Mamdani in any way we can, and really hope and pray for his success. Because if he's successful, that is going to really carry over across the country. That's going to reverberate across the country. So it's a very important what's going on in New York with Mamdani. And I know that there will be forces to try to undermine him. Even Adams, when he was on his way out, tried to undermine him.
Right.
So I think that we should all support Mamdani in any way that we can, hope for his success, pay attention to it, to what's going on. And I should say too, and what's happening internationally, what's happening globally, we really need to, and Black voices really need to be heard on this, on these extrajudicial killings in Venezuela and off the coast of Venezuela. We need to really amplify what's happening there and really get people to pay attention to this. And really, what they're trying to have a coup in Venezuela. So we really need to speak up on that and pay attention to it. So that's what my mind is focused on right now, going into 2000. Oh, last thing, which I think is very important. This is 250 year celebration this year, and the People's Organization of Progress for the last few years have been really paying attention to the Civil War and our role in the Civil War. And Chairman Hamm can say the brother in the People's Organization who was really pushing for us to really talk about Daniel, brother Daniel. Brother Daniel. So we really not only need to talk about the Civil War, but our role in this country's history throughout 250 years, particularly during the Revolution, American Revolution. So we really need to re-educate folk about our role in this country's history. So that's a part of my focus as well.
I think that's real interesting because you both talked about initially the elections and the midterm elections. We had an election for governor, and the Democrat won. And the last conversation we had was about how do you hold people accountable? What do you hold them accountable for? And I was expecting a conversation about the activism that has to take place on Venezuela.
We can get to that
on the 250th anniversary, because part of me is thinking that the politics won't change until the activism gets a lot more intense, and we have people disappearing, people here in the United States, people being picked up, and if they're American citizens, they're only held for a few hours. If they're not, we don't know where they are, right? They could be in El Salvador, they could be in some other country. And this affects our communities when you have people being able to disappear, because you're like, where will they end it? Or are they just talking about people over here who are undocumented? They've made an entire class of people who had temporary protected status in their immigration just disappear, right? Like, as in, now you were legal, you were here legally, and with the sign of a pen, you are all now here illegally. And famously, last year we heard the Venezuela woman who supported Trump and had a bunch of people support Trump and started yelling out, "You betrayed us, you betrayed us," right? Like, because she didn't recognize that white supremacy didn't include her. You have said this is going to be a tumultuous time this year. Can you be more specific? You got the 250th celebration that are going on, where there are going to be drastically different interpretations of America on full display. You've got people who are supporting blatant white supremacy, both in symbolism and in action. You've got a civil rights commission that is at a federal government level saying that we need to be concerned about the white people who are being discriminated against, and we need to have effective legal actions pushing that. Can you elaborate more on what this fight is? And Drakeson, we're gonna bring you in as well to talk about this.
Bring the young son in
from your perspective as well.
Yeah, of course. I guess, like, just my general perspective on kind of everything that's going on right now.
And just adding to the conversation of what to expect from this year. And you're an entrepreneur, you're a young person, you are living within this. Your perspective is particularly different in terms of what the future looks like. For everybody else on this call, there's less ahead of us than there is behind us. We have an entire history of our lived lives that we remember the 90s, we remember the 80s, right? Some of us remember the 70s. And so today's fight is in the context of that. Larry Hamm was around during the Newark uprisings, right? Where he saw. So when Chairman Larry Hamm talks about civil rights, and he talks about a white nationalist government that is profoundly white nationalist, he's talking about it from the perspective of someone who saw the Newark uprisings, who was around when the 1964 and 1965 legislation was gutted. Mm-hmm. And all the hope that came in the 70s about how to utilize the gains that had been made in the 60s.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with the story, but we met briefly. But I do remember, your relationship with, the Mayor Sharp, actually the first mayor, Mr. Gibson or Mayor Gibson, and Dr. Harris. I'm not sure if we've been acquainted yet, but it is nice to meet you. I think that, of course, I think that in 2026, just kind of seeing it would be nice, and what we're seeing right now is a return to authenticity. Especially with the proliferation of AI. We had Rock on here a couple minutes ago. Lovely guy, I love him so much. But like, as somebody who's kind of young, when I see, when I see certain interpretations of AI on social media, it's more so a turnoff, honestly. And I could appreciate from his perspective, understanding now that, okay, he's just trying to experiment with different apps and things, but it is extremely uncanny. It's extremely inhuman. And I'm part of the generation that was never able to really, I guess you could say, be human in all the ways that we wanted to, or that were, I guess, promised to us. So for example, I'm COVID, generation. We did not have a prom at Science Park. We had something called a MORP. I have no idea what MORP is. It's prom backwards, so we didn't no prom, no homecoming. Graduation was, fully masked up. I went to college, I dormed, but everybody was scared to talk. Everybody was scared to socialize. I was, they say Gen Z, our alcohol consumption is down by like 70%. We don't drink, we don't go outside, we don't do bars and stuff. I went to McGovern's, I felt uncomfortable. So I think that just like in 2026, once again, exposing Gen Z to authenticity and like true authenticity, like that grind authenticity. You guys talk about, Mayor Mamdani now, which is fantastic. I became a fan of him when I'm sure everybody here on this call, remembers the day when our mayor got arrested, and Mayor Mamdani, he obviously he showed up, and he didn't just obviously he was, grassroots campaign, but he took the path down there, and it was a grim day. Like, it was like cloudy, it was gray. It was not like just like an easy, layup, kind of thing. He went down there, he listened, he learned, he spoke when it was time to speak, and then he would shut up for the rest of it, and he didn't make it a big deal, and then obviously that, they dropped, the mayor's charges like a day later, which is just ridiculous. But so it's like, seeing just like that level of authenticity is really nice to see from him. And then just kind of like, that A. B, what I would love to see, and what I think we're getting close to, especially with conversations with, I guess the Honorable Alturrick, who was on here a little bit earlier. It's like, even with Rock, we talk about there's a disparity. There's all these disparities. They say, we received, less than 1% of contracts at the Essex County level, for, being like vendors and partnerships and applications.
And even less, and I believe even less at the state level.
Yeah, more than likely less at the state level. When it comes to venture capital, I'm an entrepreneur. We receive less than half of 1%. So we're receiving about 0.003%. When it comes to actually receiving investor capital. We don't have any type of friends and family funding either, because our friends and family typically either A, don't have money, or B, don't believe that we can actually return their money if they invest within us. So, can't raise initial investments to get the project going. And then, of course, can't raise further investments once it's time to, lock in the big VC dollars. I think, though, that it's funny. I would love to actually hear your perspective, your guys' perspectives on kind of affirmative action and DEI. What I've kind of seen or learned a little bit, I think that being able to have a specific material goals, specific material KPIs, specific material pipelines would be nice.
What is a KPI?
KPI is a key performance indicator. It lets us know that we're doing our job correctly, I suppose. So it's like, obviously we talk about Newark, we're not getting these contracts, we're not getting this, we're not getting that. Or we're talking about, these, I guess, DEI initiatives. I don't fully know if, the impact that I saw beyond, or like, okay, take Big Rock, for example. He says they're giving us money for AI, but they won't let us know how to spend it. We're not given directives on how to specifically spend it. They say just take 20% of your budget and give it to AI, and we did it. We're being progressive, we're being forward thinking. So it's like, you guys look at, post George Floyd, we have all the corporations, the companies saying, hey, we're going to give out a bunch of money, we're going to listen, we're going to learn and have all these studies and stuff. But then, of course, were we able to establish a material specific pipeline? And I don't know that answer. Obviously, it's still a failure if I don't know the answer, because that means that your communication doesn't work, possibly. But I will say that, for example, again, you look at a school like Science Park High School, pretty much the best school in Newark. You look at Newark as a city, we have 3 different hospitals in our city proper, 3 great hospitals receiving massive investments. Do we have a healthcare pipeline? Science Park, the best school in the city of Newark, just established, to my knowledge at least, their healthcare club, and how, expanded upon it is it? Are we, actually giving them a pipeline, or is it just, take a couple college kids and have them speak to the kids, here and there?
Anderson, I think maybe what you're getting at is, how do we know what to fight for or when we're fighting for it? Like, there's struggles, but how do we know which struggle is meaningful? How do we know what we're going to do makes a difference?
Pretty much, measuring that difference.
And
go ahead.
And so Lawrence Hamm or Kairos, how do you measure? Like, I have my ideas of what's going down in 2026. Lawrence Hamm, you were talking about what's going to go down in 2026, and it sounded pretty apocalyptic. It sounded an event, right?
It is apocalyptic.
Right. And I don't think that it is conveyed. I think that you get it. I think I understand exactly what you're talking about. I think Dr. Harris understands exactly what it is because of our lived experience and because of what we've seen over the last 30 to 40 years and how different this is, how unlike other things that we have experienced is. Like we've experienced the Republican Party in many different manifestations, but we haven't really experienced the raw white supremacy that we've read about, but yet we can recognize.
Right. What many of us, because first of all, 54 years. I heard our young brother speak, talking about what happened to him in high school, and it made me think about what happened to me. And that's where a lot of us got on this path when we were in high school, and the events that surrounded us drove us to struggle. First of all, what's happening in America is a slide from a kind of corporate democratic state to a fascist state. And I think one of the real inadequacies of my high school education is, and I think probably of most secondary school education in the United States, is a real lack of a moderate, a modicum, not moderate, a modicum of understanding of what happened in World War II. You know, it's like Hitler was an evil man, and we got together and we defeated that evil man. You know, and that's that. And we always see Hitler in his jackboots and his military uniform. But the truth of the matter is that Hitler did not come to power through a violent seizure of power. He was elected. He was elected. He got he was in a parliamentary system, which is different than the American system. Here we have fundamentally a two-party duopoly, you know, that persists because essentially they rigged the system in such a way to make it almost impossible for a third party to gain enough ground among the electorate to win. But they had a multi-party system. They had, oh my God, I think they had some, to correct me if I'm wrong, Professor Harris, like more than 15 political parties actually participated in the election. And no party got a clear 50% majority. So they had to create a coalition government. And so the party that got the biggest slice, the I guess you could call it the establishment party in Germany, they had to enter into a coalition. And rather than enter into a coalition with the socialists and the communists, they entered into a coalition with the Nazi party. And that's another thing we don't study. We don't study, like, how many high school students can tell you the difference between the parliamentary system of government that they have in most European, in fact, in most other countries in the world, and the type of two-party system that we have? So they had to cobble together a coalition. They coalesced with the Nazis, and they had to make a deal like, Nazis want to know, what are we going to get if we join your coalition? And they said, well, we'll make Hitler vice chancellor. And Hitler said, oh, hell no. You want us to coalesce, you're going to make me chancellor. And they made him chancellor. And within 53 days after coming to power, he passed a series of laws that essentially gave him dictatorial power over the economy and the government, by the way, in Germany. That's how he came to power.
And you're saying
and that's what is going on right now in the United States. If we take the three-branch example that we're taught, right? The three branches of government: legislative, judicial, executive. Supposed to be a system of checks and balances. Trump has come in on his second term with an agenda that was embodied in, what was it called, Dr. Harris? Project 2025?
Yeah, that's right.
That was the agenda that they ran on. And essentially that agenda was to, and this is a quote from Steve Bannon, one of Trump's closest advisors. He said, we're going to destroy the administrative state. In other words, they're going to tear down this system of checks and move it from a tripartite system of government, judiciary, executive, legislative, to a unitary form of government. They speak of this openly. You don't have to listen too long to the radio to hear this stuff come up. We're going to move to a unitary form. Well, what do you think unitary mean? It means unit. It means one.
Right.
And so right now, you know, this struggle is going on. And if we didn't have folks who were equipped to go into court to fight this stuff, it'd be all over. It would have been done. It'd have been done like by December 1st. It'd have been all done. But there have been a number of organizations, legal organizations, that ACLU, for instance, and others that have taken them into court, and they've really won on a large number of issues, but they've also lost on a large number of issues. Why? Because the right wing got control of the Supreme Court. Right. So when you fight something in court, if you have the money, you can keep fighting it all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has, in the majority of cases, ruled in Trump's favor. Not only have they ruled in Trump's favor in legislative matters and regulatory matters, they have given him immunity. They have said that this person essentially is immune from prosecution while he is in office. So the guy's doing anything he wants to do. Now the question is, what's going on right now in the court is the question is, all the people working for him, do they have immunity too? That's a battle that's getting ready to be fought right now. So what they're setting up a dictatorship. They're setting up an effort to steal this election. I believe they stole the last one too, but for argument's sake, let's just talk about 28. They just asked, the Department of Justice has asked every state to give up its voter rolls to the federal government.
Right, and clear
Do
violation.
you have an idea why that is? Why would the federal government, who has no role in state and local elections, why would they want a state's voter rolls? They want a state's voter rolls so that they can purge people from those voter rolls, so there won't be enough people left to vote to defeat them if they're forced to engage in the charade of elections.
So it seems like,
I'm gonna finish because I'm gonna have to jump off in a minute. Or there's the other scenario, you've heard in the song, right? The whole thing, the iron fist and the velvet glove. Yeah. Fascism essentially is when they take the velvet glove off of the iron fist.
That's right.
And the other scenario is that Trump has been moving these federal troops into these cities to try to precipitate a confrontation, to precipitate a crisis, so that he can declare martial law and cancel elections. Because he said it. You gotta take these people at their word. He said, I'm gonna be a dictator, but I'm just gonna be a dictator for a day. But he told you the first time, I'm gonna be a dictator. His biggest backer, Elon Musk, at a victory rally, the richest man in the world, on his way to becoming the first trillionaire in the world. A billion is 1,000 million, and a trillion is 1,000 billion. If you have that much money, you don't need a government.
Right.
His wealth, his personal wealth, is greater than the GDP of half the countries in the world today. Okay. So he stands up in a campaign rally and gives a Nazi salute. And everybody's like forgotten about that. Can you imagine if Mamdani had stood up in front of Gracie Mansion or City Hall and give the Nazi salute? And people will argue with me and say they're not Nazis. He stood up in front of the world, all the television cameras, and gave the Nazi salute. But if you're a scholar, all you have to do is read what these people are writing. Talk about some of these books, Dr. Harris. Peter Thiel wrote a whole book on how he wants to establish a techocracy.
Yeah.
Where essentially these tech bros are the dictators and the rest of us are just serfs on the AI plantation.
This is even mirroring a lot of the science fiction that people were talking about as well. Donna?
No, just Chairman, before you jump off. So in all your scenarios, is our biggest pushback is everybody getting out to vote? Is the vote the biggest pushback?
Yes. Number one, we must vote. Anybody that tells you not to vote, they're doing you a disservice. You better vote while you still can vote. Because right now there's a case in front of the Supreme Court. It's Louisiana versus Calais, Callais.
That's right.
And that case, if it's decided in the favor of the plaintiff, that case will make racial gerrymandering legal.
Legal, yeah.
And they will redraw all these district lines, these congressional district lines, so that Black people can elect nobody else.
Right.
So one, we got to vote. Two, we got to mobilize. Why you think the troops had to leave Chicago? The troops had to leave Chicago because the people of Chicago were putting up massive resistance. I don't know what people are looking at who can't see that we've had the largest mobilization of protests since the Black Lives Matter movement. Millions of Americans have been mobilizing around the country in protests in these No King rallies and these No Kings demonstrations and demonstrations similar to those. So people got to be in the streets. Another thing people have to think about is the possibility of a national general strike. Because if Trump and them make a real heavy move, say for instance, he wakes up and says, I'm issuing an executive order, we're declaring martial law. I mean, do you think that elections can't be canceled? Don't you remember after 9/11, the New York City election was canceled until the following year? It's easy to cancel an election. And you know what the shame of it is that so many people are sheeple. They're sheeple. They will go along with whatever is going down. And the worst part of it is that there will be some Negroes who will actually stand up and defend Trump. Oh, what do we need elections for? It's a waste of time anyway.
Right.
Nicki Minaj.
Right. And
hip hoppers. Throw all her damn MPs, CDs, pictures, all social media. Get rid of all of that.
And I think
terrible house Negro.
And I honestly think all that. I think the thing that matters most is the stuff
need to be put on blast.
I think the stuff that matters most is the stuff that Chairman Hamm said when he was like, it's about mobilization. Because it is about elections, but I think it's about everybody coming together in lots of different ways. Some of it's going to be mass mobilization. Some of it might be a general strike. Some of it might be community meetings and block watches. I think people have to talk to one another. I think people have to get out in person and make community with each other. Because I think that one way or another, we're going to need each other. And I think that the way in which they're working is to make us all isolated and make us all think that we're going to be isolated. Because at some point, and I think that this is what you've been alluding to, Chairman. Right, but at some point, I think, Chairman Hamm, what you've been alluding to, what you have not said, bluntly, is that at some point, they're going to start killing us. And they've already prepped us for it. They're doing it in Venezuela when they have these judicial killings.
That's right.
Right? They have judicial killings, but they're saying they're doing it to drug dealers. So even though they're not following any procedure.
John Wilson Brutus died in custody at Delaney Hall. That didn't happen in space. That didn't happen in California. Didn't happen in El Salvador. It happened in Newark.
And that's what I'm saying right now too, right? Like the way in which that they have already made racial profiling legal. The Supreme Court has already ruled that if you look like an immigrant, like they technically said if you look Latino, you could be stopped.
You don't look white.
Because there's lots, right. But ultimately it's if you don't look white, because there are lots of us who are being stopped. I could look like a Jamaican immigrant, like anybody else here, or Haitian, or whatever, right? If your skin is of a certain hue, you too can be stopped because you are a threat. And that is what the organization, I love the organization that went on in Chicago and the organization that went on in Portland and all these different things that came up, right? Right, and I think ultimately that combined with voting, because it's like an all in. It's like at some point, real soon, right? The killing that is already going on, right? Because the kidnapping's been going on. And at some point, we're like, oh, this kidnapping, somebody's going to get killed. And somebody got killed. And what they're justifying in terms of the drug dealers in Venezuela and like, oh, they're drug dealers, therefore we can just summarily kill them. Well, where does that logic end?
It's a goddamn video game.
I don't have to follow the law. If they are like at
They're
that point,
fishermen.
you
They're
start
fishermen.
talking about right, and at that point, you have what I would call the Israeli logic on a U.S. context, as in the Israelis say that you are an enemy, and therefore we could use military strategy against you, even though you are within our domain, right? Because everybody knows anything about Israel, even though you were like it should be a Palestinian state. We know that the land is under the control. All the land there is under the control of a state,
and they ultimately
so
to annex it. Let's be
right
clear
and
about that too.
right and so you're like, if I can justify military means against people who I say they have declared war on us, and we could do that within our borders, outside of our borders. Like when the Fourth Amendment doesn't apply in the borders of the United States, when I can be detained off of just looking like an immigrant, and I can be held for 3 hours, 5 hours, right?
Indefinitely until you can prove otherwise.
Until you can prove otherwise. And in any interact, the reason why we have habeas corpus, the reason why there have to be rules before you are taken by the police is because if there weren't, any interaction with the police can be deadly. They have guns. They are soldiers. So there are civilian forces of violence. The state has control, it's supposed to have a monopoly on violence. The police is how we utilize violence in the civil state. So you want to limit the interaction between ordinary citizens and our mechanisms of violence in our state.
Or
There's no longer that limit.
Or you weaponize your base, because they also announced that they're getting ready to do a massive recruitment campaign with
vigilantes
for gun lovers and folks who are marching along their ideological orientation.
To be armed and to carry it out, like the
They
coward
did
who
this during the
murdered
World War I
Trayvon
era.
Martin. Right.
They did this during the World War I era.
Yeah, they did.
Yep, same thing.
And
Same
this
thing.
levels of lynching and these
I was trying
extrajudicial
to
mobs.
get Melina Abdullah on this into this conversation because she's in LA, and LA offers some serious resistance too. But you know, the LA modern police force was built on recruiting from the segregated South.
That's right.
That's how it was built.
That's right.
And so these are tools and mechanisms that have already been in play that are now more empowered than ever before, right? Like the levels of vigilante justice, the levels of Oscar-winning award actor. There was just a clip of him, Henry Fonda, was talking, and he passed away a long time ago. But Henry Fonda, very famous actor in the 40s, 50s, 60s, up until the 80s, 90s. Jane Fonda is his daughter, famous actress in her own right. He was giving an interview about when he was growing up and the lynching he witnessed as a child in Omaha, Nebraska. And his father knew a lynching was going to take place. And the father brought him to the town hall in his office that overlooked the town hall. And he saw as a child, a black man being dragged out, being strung up,
as a part of their
being
rites of
murdered
passage.
by being shot to death, right? And how the bloodthirsty crowd reacted in this 250th anniversary of the founding of the United States. This is the history that they want quiet.
John,
That this was part of who they are.
Don't forget that they broke into the jail, that the man had been in jail.
That's right.
They broke into the jail,
took him
overpowered the sheriff. If the sheriff was overpowered, that may be
if he was
debatable.
overpowered, yes.
And then they lynched him.
That's the same way they did the colleague friends of Ida B. Wells.
Right.
Broke into the jail and pulled them out the jail, lynched them. Same thing.
Right.
And so there's levels of vigilantism is in American history. And the thing that that is so that you are responding to, Chairman Hamm, is that you understand that the language of white supremacy is the language of murder, that they are murderers, and that they are ginning up with fear and emotion, murderous undertones, because ultimately that is what white supremacy is. White supremacy is a murderous ideology, and it is evil because of the way it is murderous. It is genocidal by nature. And when they're talking about replacement theory and they're scared that they're going to be replaced, all of this rhetoric and speed. I'm a debate coach. I understand the power of language. I teach the power of language to help define reality. And the reality that they're trying to create is one in which uneducated white people need to be fearful for their lives.
And
And
Chairman, go ahead. I'm sorry, John, because I was gonna Chairman, with you being the elder on this panel right now, the wiser one.
Well, the elder was right. I don't know about the wiser one. The elder was right.
And then, complete opposite, Drixon, I'm glad you came back on, with you being the younger on this panel. The conversation, I mean, my mother was born in 1940, and I know some of the conversation that she kind of had when I was growing up, the sacrifices and stuff she made so that we wouldn't, my generation, you know, the grandkids would not have to. And this history that keeps repeating and the fear white people have, it's just, one, like, already a generation removed, the vote of people, young people not voting and everything. But I know that there's a greater hope that we wouldn't have to relive, yet we're closer to reliving everything that Harriet Tubman or Ida B. Wells went through. I can't even, what is it that you've already laid it out, both mobilize, national, what we can do. But in your, in the depth of your soul, Chairman Hamm, what are you feeling right now? Like, what we're going through as people of color. This is, beyond scary and everything. It's just very, I can't find the words to it, but can you, from a feeling standpoint, what is it that you could say to us, if anything? I don't know.
Well, I would say that tyrants and oppressors can be defeated. The struggle to defeat them is long-term and protracted. But what did Martin Luther King say in one of his speeches, Dr. Harris? No lie can stand forever.
That's right.
And, we have to be careful. As terrible as these people are, they're not God.
That's right.
They're not gods. They're human beings.
That's right.
And they can be defeated. And they are weakened not only by our strength, but they're also weakened by their own internal contradictions. Like right now, we're starting to see these cracks in the MAGA movement. I wouldn't put too much on that, but they are cracks nonetheless. And just check this out. On this fight that's getting ready to happen on the ACA, 2 months ago,
that's the healthcare.
Right, the Affordable Care Act. So in this last budget, they did not renew the tax subsidies for the ACA that kept people's premium and healthcare costs where they are now. They didn't renew the subsidies, so now people's healthcare costs are going to shoot up at a minimum of 114%. Some of them are going to double and triple. And so a lot of people are not going to be able to hold healthcare. Now, what this is causing is some breaks in the MAGA camp, because some of these MAGA congressmen are in districts where a lot of their people are on the ACA. In fact, I saw a statistic that said that the majority of people on ACA, 50% plus, were in Republican states. So if these people are not able to have health care, those Congress people are going to lose their jobs. So in a situation where it seemed like Trump and the MAGA people had total, Trump was the president, Mike Johnson is the speaker, they got a majority in the House, Mike Johnson is the only one that can bring a bill to the floor. There's something called a discharge petition. A discharge petition enables the members in Congress to override the speaker to bring a bill to the floor. So the last I heard, and Professor Harris, you can help me with this, the last I heard was that 4 Republicans are willing to sign the discharge petition on the ACA. So despite Trump's desires, despite Johnson's desires, there's going to be a vote on the ACA sometime in January when they all come back. So there are these cracks that are appearing, that are weakening. His biggest cheerleaders, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert.
He didn't want the Epstein files released. That was the
right. He didn't want the Epstein files released. So what they do? They did a discharge petition.
Yeah, and the Indiana Republicans bucked on him. They didn't go with the redistricting. So you have instances where his own party is starting to really show some backbone. It's not enough, but you have instances where people are starting to show some backbone and defy him.
But right. I think that there are 2 levels to this, right? I think that we can't be lulled into thinking that because Trump is old, he's going to die soon, right? Just natural causes, he's old, right? And I think a lot of people are looking at him being old and are trying to do their own thing. But let's be real. This ain't about Trump. It's about the millions of people, the millions and millions of people who agree with him, who are compelled by an ideology of white nationalism,
right?
And are pushing that agenda. Because even when he leaves, they will remain. And maybe you're right. The Heritage Foundation is losing people to the Pence Foundation because the Heritage Foundation openly embraced a Nazi. But at the same time, right, they're only mad that he embraced a Nazi because of the Nazis' stand on Israel.
Right.
They weren't like,
right,
you're anti-Black, you support genocide, they were just like, but you have anti-Semitic views on Israel. And that is why they broke. Like, if you read the reasons why they broke, it wasn't simply because Nazis are evil. There's the entire Holocaust. They killed 6 million Jews. They are white nationalists. They are murderous. They killed a lot more people than that. They support genocide of everyone who is non-white, which is most of the planet. That wasn't really their problem, which is our problem, right? Because even the people who are against the Nazi are just against the Nazi because the Nazi is hard on Israel.
Right.
Really? Like,
right. But see, the point is, they got millions, but we got millions. Yeah. See, we always have to keep the mathematics in the foreground. And what is the math? The math is that Trump won with roughly 76 million votes, and Harris lost with roughly 74.5 million votes. They got millions, we got millions. She only lost the election by 1.5% of the active electorate.
And how many people
That's right.
stayed home?
So the point is that even though they got millions, they still can be defeated.
Oh yes, absolutely.
They are not invincible, and we have to we have to steel ourselves to overcome this psychological effect of white supremacist invincibility. These people are not invincible. If they were invincible, they wouldn't have lost the Civil War.
That's the real.
And we kicked their ass in the Civil War. It was only when the Black troops were enabled to fight. And that's what the Emancipation Proclamation, which we observed yesterday. Yesterday was the effective date. Is that right, Professor Harris? January 1st was the effective date.
Yep.
220,000 Black men joined the Union forces, 186,000 in the Union, and the rest in the other branches of the military. And they turned the situation around because the will to fight was not there. McClellan, who was the supreme commander before Grant, had 100,000 men amped out on the Potomac. He would not fight. And then finally, Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Thaddeus Stevens, and Charles Sumner convinced Lincoln, say, you got to put arms in the hands of those who have the greatest interest in winning this war. And that's what the Emancipation Proclamation was. It was a military recruitment document. And we don't, I bet you, I would challenge any teacher to find me one student who can name one of the battles that Black soldiers fought during the Civil War and helped to win. And they can't even name the one that was in the movie. And the movie was Glory, and that was Fort Wagner.
Right.
What about St. Petersburg and Appomattox? What about Antietam? What about Gettysburg?
But I think that, to your point, Chairman Hamm, to what you are saying, I don't think it's the hopelessness that we have to worry about, because I think you're right. The reason why there's even this conversation is because there were so many people who disagreed with them and they thought they were disappearing. That's why it's effective, right? Replacement theory was because they thought many people literally did think they were being replaced. There are a lot fewer like segregationist white people, a lot, like they're about 60% of the white voting population as opposed to 80% before. But I think and this goes to the point of Drexen, I think that what you were saying or implying, but not directly saying, and what I think I'm directly saying is that this situation, and one of the respondents is saying that we can't really exaggerate, and I don't think this is an exaggeration. We are in a state that is so dangerous that we will be risking our lives in that resistance. And that means that, and I don't think it's an exaggeration, because they're trying to outlaw protest. They have a force that the reason why the National Guard was being brought to cities was to quell protest. The reason why they're trying to name dissenters as terrorists, as supporters of violence, even though you're supporting peaceful mass protest, is to be able to use violence against you. So I think it becomes trying to impart the question that every generation has to ask, and that is, what are you willing to die for? And do you think that these things, these situations, these times are going to force you to ask that question? And that is the sobering place where I think we are. And I don't know, it translates to me, and I see it clearly, right? Like, as in, you go out, you protest, you are putting, we are speaking, right? Us saying what we're saying right now is potentially putting our lives at risk,
but
because
you know what,
of the
Jonathan,
nature of where we are.
But you know what, Jonathan, you can't, no one can point to, and this is not hyperbole, no one can point to a year in our history, and let's go back these 250 years. No one can point to a year in 250 years where we haven't been organizing or doing something in this country.
Damn right.
Fighting. every
Right.
year. We always doing
Right.
something. It's just a matter of whether people know about it or not. You know,
Let me put a
That
pin.
is true.
that struggle, it ebbs and flows, you know, but it's always, we always doing something. We always fighting it. We never give up. That's our history. That literally is our history. We never stop. So, you know, that's what always keeps me hopeful. I know that we're going to continue to do the kind of work that we need to do, whether is protesting, teaching, dialoguing, debating, whatever the case may be, organizing, being entrepreneurs, whatever it is. We're going to keep doing that work, and we haven't stopped doing it. There's no time in our history we haven't, and too often that doesn't get amplified in talking about our history in this country,
and that history, knowing the risks, because I think that we have political prisoners who are currently in jail, who are in jail when most of the rest of us were at peace, right? Like, we were not protesting, we were not fighting for things, but some of us were always fighting for things, and that fight puts the people who fight at risk, which is why in the 80s, a lot of people are like, "Ooh, we saw what happened to the brothers in the 70s, laying back," because we saw how the Black Panthers were treated. We saw what happened, right? And I think,
having said that, let me put a pin in several things that are coming up that we need to pay attention to on our side in 26. But Demo, before we leave, you got to lift up January 19th, our March for Dr. King, right? July 4th, Philadelphia and Atlanta are going to be hotbeds for Black protests. And part of Philly's protest is going to be Mumia. He was sentenced to death on July 3rd, 1982. So those crackers on their jury could have a nice 4th of July. It is that plain spoken by one of the most racist judges in the country at that time. That was Albert Sabo. And in the South, in Atlanta, the People's Senate, which was came out of a tribunal on human rights that we did in 2021. Some of us are encouraging to shift the support that they tried to offer for Imam Jamil, who died in captivity in the state of Georgia, to Siddiqui, who is in captivity in the state of Georgia, so he doesn't die in prison. So that's coming up in 2026. So I want folks to put a pin in that, to jump in it, because hey, you see a good fight, you crazy like me, you jump in it.
and I know that we're heading toward the end of this particular segment. I know we have our guest in the back for our Stolen Live segment. And all of our segments are blending together. But Drixon, what do you think of the conversation so far? Talk to us.
Yeah, I think that more than anything, obviously, the chairman is extremely passionate about this stuff. I think that the piece that's going to leave me is, I watched these old films. I recently watched, the Kawaida Towers, the mayor's father, the project that they were working on, and just seeing the film, like the amount of vitriol, for that project. There's like, they got the police officers lined up, they got all the residents, and it was just, insane.
Tell everybody about the film that you saw, because we want folks to plug into what you're talking about. You're banging, son. You're banging. We hear.
Yeah. So yeah, it was just, it was on YouTube. Literally just, Kawaida Towers. Kawaida Towers as in Newark. Kawita. I want to say, but it might be a D. Kawaida.
It's D. It's a D.
With a D. Awesome. But yeah, it's a free documentary on YouTube. And it was, I enjoyed it, so it's like for, the chairman to experience that, for the others, in this session, you guys, some of the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, of course. And, for this, 2025, 2026 now, Happy New Year's, for this to stand out to you guys, it's I think that obviously I'm Gen Z. I talk about like the whole antisocial, perspective. So we get a little bit, desensitized to these things. It's just normal. Like I remember Obama getting elected. I was maybe 6-ish. But Trump is kind of, I was in middle school for that. And that was like during like memes and social media came out. So it's just kind of been normal for me to kind of have a crazy president. you know, and all these crazy politics, and crazy headlines, crazy sensationalism headlines of he's doing this, he's dismantling that, you know, seeing that, you know, what really hurt, honestly, if I could, you know, say, during when he was getting sued, and you know they were suing the heck out of him, you know, all of like Joe Biden's presidency, they're really going after him, and all the conversation was like, he's done, we got him, everybody, it's okay now. Trump, he's going to go to prison for a long time, we got him, so on and so forth, you know, he's going to be a one-term, you know, president, and you know, and whatnot. And then obviously, you know, now we have this, you know, this craziness. So yeah, it is interesting, but I will say, you know, one of you guys mentioned it. Just looking at the numbers, just the raw numbers, you know, trying to incite something, trying to start, whether it's a Civil War 2.0, whether it's, you know, this, you know, just this white supremacy, they don't have the numbers that I think that they're expecting. You know, especially given the whole. We didn't touch on Charlie Kirk during this meeting, but like that whole, you know, thing. The immediate aftermath was kind of like going to war. Like you guys talk about Stephen Miller, he got up there like during like the eulogy funeral area, and he's like talking about the enemy, the military's there, he's trying to rile them up, and they weren't really getting riled up. You know, I thought that was pretty interesting. It's kind of like they wanted, or it just felt like, you know, some of the rhetoric was like, hey, it's wartime, war against who? I don't know. But it's wartime, and people weren't really going for it. And then now it's like, you know, kind of, you know, fell flat a little bit. So it's like, you know, I do love to see, you know, like, you know, just in terms of community, like-minded people, Chicago, obviously it's not just us out there, you know. And I think that moving forward, it won't just be us out there. And obviously Mayor Mamdani, his win of the billions of dollars that I can't even comprehend, it's 1,000 million, all of that, and he still won. You know, so yeah, while we still do have democracy, it would be nice for us to take advantage of it before it is too late.
All right, well, thank you.
Drickson,
well said, brother. Well said.
The video that you referred to is a new film. I'm putting it in a link now. I appreciate your contribution, son.
Drickson, before we finish this segment, one thing that Chairman said, and Professor Harris is a professor of history too. Were you able to name any of the fights during the Civil War that Black soldiers participated in?
So yes, but it would have been a cop-out answer. I would have just said Gettysburg and let that be that. You know, but yeah, I had to do a lot of my own research when it came to like the Revolutionary War. We were there for that. I didn't know that. You know, they said that for the Revolutionary War, it was you guys actually might have the numbers, but let's say 10% of the actual workforce were, you know, Black men. But we fought for like 3 times the average length, you know, because our enlistment times were like 18 months at a time, you know, whereas others it's like 3 months, you know, at a time. So yeah, just our contributions have been significant, but I don't remember covering that, you know, in school per se.
Cool, I like that.
About 5,000. And Dr. Harris, I need you on this one because I'm dealing with old.
But
old
I know
stuff.
we are getting ready to we are going to have to go to the
people at the back. So we got to come back on that. That was a good question, Chairman. But with Drickson,
excellent question.
I don't know if this is your first time, Drickson, but as a new show, you know, this is a hip hop political show. When you're doing the work that you do in the community, with your people, you know, whatever you're doing that you passionately do, what hip hop artist, individual, or group do you listen to that keeps you inspired?
Inspired? Oh, that's
it keeps you inspired. That keeps you inspired. Hip hop, individual, or group?
Huh? Who do I listen to constantly now? I listen to a lot of mumble rap these days.
People. It could be multiple people, one person. It could just be what you're bumping with. So even if what you listen to is not hip hop, who is it?
Yeah, I'll say that Pop Smoke for me was one of my favorite artists of all time. God rest his soul. You know, both on and off the court, if you will. I think that he was pretty good. You know, you watch his interviews. He was a gentleman.
Pop Smoke, okay. Yeah, Pop Smoke sound like who? 50? Who? You sound just like 50, right?
Sound like 50.
Yeah, 50. Okay, well,
Okay.
thank you. Go ahead, Jonathan. And
I was going to say thank you, and thank you for being on for this segment. Chairman, I'll let you end it off before we bring on our next guest.
Right. I just want to urge everybody to come out and join us on January 19th. That is the Martin Luther King Day holiday. We're having a march of resistance on Monday, January 19th, 12 o'clock noon. We're going to meet at the Martin Luther King statue, 495 Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Newark, New Jersey. And we want everybody to come out. We want organizations to endorse. Right now, up to 75 organizations have endorsed so far this year's March of Resistance, and we want to get several hundred more to endorse by January 19th.
That's right.
The other thing,
we have last year.
huh?
How many did we have last year?
We had 300 organizations endorsed last year.
At least to that 300. And
Pardon?
after a full year of Trump, we should have more than 300.
Oh yeah.
Right.
That's a whole nother discussion. Let me just say real quick, for those who can read National Security Presidential Memo number 7. Everybody should read that.
Okay. National Security Presidential Memo number 7.
Right.
All right. We'll put that, and we'll put, and I'm sure Zai will put that in our link. All right. Thank you so much. Always honored to have you on, Chairman Hamm. Always honored to have you on, Dr. Harris. And we will see you very shortly.
All right. Thank you for having me. Y'all take care.
All right. Well, and Dr. Kelly, what are you listening to?
Oh, you know, I'm old school hip hop, Philly hip hop, man. And when I get inspired and I'm in my work mode, I go back to Tough Crew, Philly, listening to My Part of Town. So damn tough.
All right. Well, thank you. And I know that we have, and thank you for your patience for our guests and Kathie Cheng and Justice from.
That's Kim.
And thank you both for being on. Oh, I'm sorry. And Zaid, you can do the better introduction for me. And Drixon, you can stay on.
He went out, but Jerkson, if you still hear us, you can stay on.
Yeah, you can come back on.
Okay.
Yeah, we got a heavy on January 11th. We have the annual Stolen Lives Induction ceremony, which is a reception of a national network of family survivors who have lost loved ones to police violence, receiving recent families who have faced the same haunting experience. It's a national support mechanism for families who have been impacted by deadly police violence. The Stolen Lives Project, part and parcel of the right and the left hand of the October 22nd National Day of Action Against Police Brutality, has been doing this for some years now. And so this year's presentation will be just next weekend. So Kathie Cheng, our point person for that, will tell us about how that looks, who's going to be involved, why that's important. And we have a family survivor, right? Kim Vaughn, who lost her partner, Muhammad Isafan, into the hands of the police in Ohio in a horrible police killing, right? And who's been in a very real way, Kim, and I'm bigging you up because I'm very proud of you, an army of one, and how she has been standing up against a lot of odds with, in many cases, not the kind of support that you would expect to see for what happened to her Muhammad, right? And it's, you know, and there's so many layers to that, you know, and I hope we have time to unpack some of that, right? So we want everybody to look forward to January 11th. I'm going to put the YouTube, you know, promotional link in the chat as we have this conversation. And as I do that, Kathie, why don't you just open up the conversation and tell us about stolen lives in general and why that's important in this particular historical moment. You're muted, Kathie. There you go. There you go.
I was having some problems with tech here. So the Stolen Lives Project was started back in 1996. It was a different name back then. So it's basically when the October 22nd Coalition began. So in 96, a number of organizations and individuals decided that it was important for there to be a very public, open representation of people around the country who feel that police brutality was an epidemic, and that there are plenty of people who are standing against police violence, against state repression, against criminalization of youth. And it ended up continuing for still today. And we have just had our 30th National Day of Protest last year. Oh no, wait, is it 30? I gotta do math. So the Stolen Lives Project began about the same time, because back in 96, there was no official documentation at all of those who have been killed by police. And so those who were doing the work with October 22nd Coalition took on the task of trying to document as many cases as possible of people who have been killed by law enforcement in the United States. And I think it was called the Names Project originally. And the poet Luis Rivera was the one who suggested, like, hey, if you're going to be making this claim about police terrorizing people in this country and just murdering people, then you need to have, some evidence of that. Not that people wouldn't believe it, but you need to show people, because especially for those who question that. So the Stolen Lives Project published a book, I think in 98.
99.
No, the second edition came out in 99. There was a first edition that was kind of just a newspaper print, and it was like 500 names. But in 99, there was a book that was published, and it took a lot of volunteers around the country, including families, doing the research, basically like folders and folders and folders of newspaper clippings, because the internet was around then, but wasn't really easily used or easily accessible. So the book came out back in 1999. Let me put the link, because we have all the pages of that book uploaded as PDFs for those who'd like to read it. And oh, sorry.
As you adjusting your tech, I just want to put a pin in that. 99 was a horrible year, right? And some very big national cases took place, particularly in this area, the Amadou Diallo killing, right? And it just really magnified for many in the general land of public opinion just how epidemic police brutality was. And so the coming together of this coalition and this documentation effort was genuinely in that historical moment right on time. And to this day, you still don't have state and federal governments that do any kind of meaningful documentation on this kind of violence at all.
Mm-hmm. Back then, it was, and for many years after, it was basically just the FBI's documenting justifiable homicides, basically. So it's just numbers, like no names, no information, no details. And while Obama was president, there was an attempt to create a sort of accounting of people who've been killed by law enforcement. And I think by the time Trump came in, he kind of just nixed that whole thing. But the Stolen Lives Project has been attempting to continue to do the work in terms of showing that very often when we hear about a police killing, it's, we hear it in the news. Very often the person who was killed is being depicted as somebody who was criminal, who the police were protecting everyone else from, and then as the society, they had criminal record, which the cops don't know when they kill them often, or they had drugs on them, which of course not a reason to kill somebody either, or they were threatening, or the police feared for their lives. That became something that was a typical reason during the trial for the cops who killed Diallo. Like, they just claimed that they feared for their lives. And I was like, oh, well, in that case, then it was justified. So because very often the public only reads here in the news the story, and because police, law enforcement are like with the official voices that media often turn to get the story. So it's usually the story that police come up with to cover up what happened. So that's a story that kind of stays with people. Like, even if it comes out later, like, oh, actually, this is what happened. And especially now, because we have like the body cam footage, we see this is actually what happened. But the initial story is what usually sticks in people's heads. And so even when the truth comes out later, whether or not it gets publicized by media, often it's the families who kind of have to get the word out themselves and let people know what happened. So part of what the Stolen Lives Project tries to do is to kind of show the truth of what happened and what happens after too, because what many people see for any news coverage of someone who's been killed by police, if it's kind of like, oh, okay, so there was a trial, or there was often it is not a trial. It's often just justifiable homicide, or went to a grand jury and the cops were not indicted, or the rare instances when there is a trial, it's not for murder or for manslaughter, and it's often, wrongful death suit. So using a civil suit, because that's kind of the only route that a lot of families get to take. So, through the after these decades, in terms of how these police murders are constructed in media, it's kind of become a trope in a way, so that people kind of familiarized with, like, this is how what typically happens, and then it kind of becomes normalized. So part of what we want to do is just have people remember, like, these are people that somebody loved, people with complex lives, that they're not just someone who, just another statistic. So the Stolen Lives Project basically documents those who have been killed by police, whatever information we can get. Unfortunately, sometimes all we have is media. But if we could, and of course now, because we have social media, we get to hear a lot more that usually isn't publicized. But we try to get the families and the loved ones to be able to tell us what happened, because they're the ones that experience the aftermath of it. And they're the ones that sometimes find out, turns out this is what happened to my son, to my aunt, to my, so my cousin, my best friend, or, my spouse, or my, so they, because they're the ones that find out what really happened. And often also because the lawyers may tell them not to speak publicly about it because it might hurt their case. We do want to give families and loved ones of those who've been killed by police the chance to tell those stories to a larger audience. And Stolen Lives induction ceremonies is kind of like a formality. So we document all cases of people killed by police, but the induction ceremony is just a platform for families to speak and tell their truths, and to have people be able to hear that. And since COVID, since the pandemic, we started doing it as a live stream, which has been great, because there are a lot of families who are kind of isolated where they are, and they don't have a support system, or they just don't have people around that they can speak with or to connect with. So this was a way to get their stories out there, having to connect with families around the country.
Jonathan, we need to check something, because I just saw something that said our Facebook feed ended, right? And I don't know if that's because we had an abbreviated show last week, but it's something we need to check.
I will check. I'll check that out. Continue the show. Right. Because the show, we're still live, and it says we are still live on both mediums, so they might want to check their own feed. But as of right now, it looks like we are live on both Facebook and YouTube.
All right. So Kathie, thank you for that. Interesting. So now over the year, if you had to put a number on the number of families that have been brought through the Stolen Lives induction space, give us a ballpark number. How many families we're talking about?
I actually did. I want to say 60 something, because we used to have them as in-person ceremonies, so like local ceremonies, and not every area has that or does that. In New York, we were trying to do it every year for a while, and actually, since we started doing it as a live stream, we kind of fell off on doing we wanted to do the in-person ones because there's something special about families being able to actually connect physically with each other, be able to like hug each other, hold each other, that you can't do on a live stream. So we kind of want to get back to trying to do in-person ones. But these live stream ones just has been great in terms of like anybody can listen to it anytime, like once it's streamed, so it's like people can always go back and refer other people like, oh, if you go to this point, this is where I tell my story about my loved one who was murdered.
Now tell your story. I mean, you have been key in bringing other stories and other voices in. What brought you into this?
Actually, it was the Diallo case, because I was raised in a very conservative household, and I was always told turn to police if you need help, and so I questioned things, but I was like, whatever, what, I wasn't. I saw myself as being someone who wasn't political, because my view of politics as I was growing up was two old white guys in suits yelling at each other, and I was like, that has nothing to do with me, so I don't care about politics, And so I think after Diallo was killed, I never really paid attention to the news in general, and I don't know if it's like a healthy skepticism as a kid, or because my dad always said, well, you have to watch the news, so it's like, but I wasn't following the story, but I knew enough about what was going on, and I happened to hear the verdict in a store, like it was just playing the radio, and I was just like, seriously? I was like, it was kind of obvious, that they're guilty. So then I just started going to these like panel discussions and forums to figure out like, well, what's going on here? Because it just didn't make any sense to me. And I went to one panel
sorry to interrupt. It seems like the Facebook feed did actually go out. Our YouTube feed is still going strong. Yeah. Everyone should go to our YouTube page, and I'm going to put something on our Facebook page, just telling people who are wanting to see the broadcast still to go to All Politics Are Local on YouTube, while I try to figure out what happened on our Facebook Live. Normally, Facebook doesn't go off until you tell it to go off, unless they change a new Facebook rule that just limited it to 2 hours, which would be new.
Yeah,
so I'll try to figure out things. Right. So I'll try to figure that out while they please continue the conversation, and everyone should also subscribe to All Politics Are Local on
like,
YouTube.
share, and subscribe.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
we're going to be doing our live stream on. Sorry?
Yeah, you were just telling us that you had went into the store and you heard the announcement over the radio, and you were like, which caused you to. Go ahead. That's where you were at.
Yeah, and that this one panel that was organized by the New York New Abolitionists, it was just like a spotlight on the PBA. I'm like, what's the PBA? So I learned a lot. But at that panel was Nicholas Hayward Sr., Steve Yip, King Dowding, Jill Nelson, Graham Weatherspoon. So like all these people I now know, and but they were all on this panel, and I didn't know who they were then. But I bought a Stolen Lives book at that panel. And so I just started going to meetings and forums and panels and marches just because I just wanted to know what was happening, because things just didn't make sense to me, and I just wanted to know more.
Wow. I never
you had your aha moment at that.
But police brutality has been a politicizing force for young people at different points, in this country's history, right? And that particular killing, and there was a number of killings in this area around that time that were almost as brazen as was Amadou Diallo's. So it affected a lot of people. It really did. We took to the streets. Wait a minute. When we took to the streets of New York and New Jersey, You know, you can see how many people it affected, whether they were actively organized in their previous backgrounds or not. Sometimes it's events like that that politicizes people and brings them to movement spaces. So I just wanted to put a pin in that. Go ahead, Donna. Ask your question, and we're gonna move to Kim.
No, I'm just gonna say, and as Kathie was talking, Justice held up, and what were you holding up, Justice? That's what you were holding up.
Kim was holding the
Yeah.
Stone Lies book up.
Okay.
She has the physical book.
Yeah, I don't know what mine is, but I definitely have it. I remember the day I bought it. And we did an event. We did a poetry reading. I organized a poetry reading against police brutality, which was at the African Globe Theater on Broad Street. That was a good spot to do things like that back then. And one of our favorite artists was just really beginning to make a name for himself. And he was just, trying to, get himself together by the name of Jerry Gant. And our art community would know who Jerry Gant was because he has gone on to really make a real name for himself and impact with his art and passed away recently. Right. So it was a heavy time. It was a really, really heavy time. Kim, you're not coming to this as someone the way Kathie came to this. You're coming to this in that painful, traumatic way of having lived through this. Right. I want you to tell the story of what happened to your husband, what happened to Muhammad. But before you tell that story, important to what we do in this work is the humanizing of our loved ones, right? So before you tell us what happened to Muhammad, tell us who Muhammad was. Then tell that story.
Muhammad was my former husband. He is also the father of my only living child. I have 3 children, 2 babies in heaven with Muhammad. And he was the biggest teddy bear, biggest goofball, a really good mechanic. Some of the things that he taught me are still with me to this day, including his car, still with me to this day. So, but he did have a very strong, fiery side, a very loyal side. And even though him and I, we were divorced at the time of his murder, he had re-proposed to me the last night I saw him alive before his murder. But it didn't matter. With us, we shared blood on the night of our wedding. And we always said that no matter what between us, we were always going to try and be the best friends and the best parents that we could be. And when the chips were down, it didn't matter if we were locking horns, if something went down with him or, his side of the family overseas, or if something, went down on my side, whatever. The slate was wiped clean and we were thick as thieves, and that's just the way we ran. So, a lot of people say, oh, yeah, she was his ex-wife. She's just out for the bag. No, absolutely not. I am not out for the ghetto lottery, the bag, the money. All I have ever wanted is to have Muhammad's true story of justice put out there. And as Kathie mentioned a little earlier, Muhammad got murdered again in the press after he got murdered by the Akron police. Akron, Ohio, by the way. And yes, when you hear Akron, Ohio, you only think of one name. You never get to hear my Muhammad's name. But trust me, he's there. So it became very important over the past couple years for the tracking of the stolen lives. For that reason, one, because, our loved ones get murdered in the press and we don't get a fighting chance. Neither do they. So this is definitely an opportunity for us to humanize them and decriminalize them. And secondly, because of the new demands that Trump has put over all of us impacted families, one of them being that he ordered the Department of Justice to completely delete the police tracking base of all police wrongdoing, murders, things of that nature. It's gone. So it becomes extra important for the Stolen Lives to keep tracking and help us to keep honoring all those victims. We wish we didn't have to add any more names. We wish that there wasn't ever a tracking database, even to be deleted. But unfortunately, that's what we're faced with. In addition to Trump freezing some of our cases, which mine was frozen, throwing out some of our cases, which Muhammad's case was thrown out in June. And I actually brought just one of my flyers. I know you probably can't see it real well, but it says, "Attention, public service announcement. Don't run out of fuel in Akron. Federal Judge David Ruiz says the 2 Akron officers who killed Muhammad Isafan were justified in their actions because it is a misdemeanor to leave your vehicle on the side of the road to go get fuel." That is his quote in his written response when he threw out my Muhammad's case.
Which took
He
place
completely denied my eyewitness. He completely denied the video from the business across the street and threw the case out. Muhammad had simply ran out of fuel and was walking home to get his gas can, and 3 houses away, he had his hands up in the air, took a direct shot to the chest, and then turned to run for his life and took 14 more in the back. It also says he didn't deserve to die for that. Yeah, and but in all of the darkness, there is a little bit of light. Allah is good. And my daughter and I have filed an appeal. And that appeal, just our side of the appeal, which is called the briefing, just went through 2 weeks ago. And then the defense gets to go in January sometime for their briefing. And then the 3-judge panel gets to decide if they want to send us back to trial or if they want to deny us the appeal. So that's a little bit of a breakdown. That's the end result. As I said, we just marked his 6-year anniversary. It was on December 15th, 2019.
Right.
At approximately 8:30.
On the last,
sorry?
I just put in the chat that there's an article on the judge dismissing the federal lawsuit. Yeah, right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I did put my the Muhammad's petition. I know some of us have mixed reviews about petitions, but I do try to get at least 100 signatures every year. It's been real slow, as Baba Zaid said. You know, I'm kind of the Lone Ranger out here, and I definitely don't get a lot of support if I'm 6 years out and still trying to beg people to get to 600 signatures. But unfortunately, try not to laugh. That's an example of how Muhammad has been shoved into the dark, that I've gotten no help, no support. You know, I'm reaching out to people in New York and New Jersey like Kathie, Baba Zaid, Chairman Hamm at the People's Organization for Progress. So if that tells you anything, then I have to reach that far. But Kathie and the Stolen Lives Induction crew and the October 22nd National Day of Protest National Committee have been like family, and they have been there for me when nobody else on this earth has. So, as I said, though, Muhammad left his car on the side of the road. It was a Sunday morning, about 8:30. He went to walk home to get his gas can out of the basement, and by 9 o'clock, he was dead. 3 houses away from home, 2 Akron, Ohio police officers got out of an unmarked white Ford Taurus, guns already drawn behind their doors. Muhammad never had a chance. He was sitting on the ground smoking a cigarette, and you see him look over his shoulder, and they're already out with their guns, no questions asked. And you see him stand up, put his hands up in the air, take the shot to the chest. Like anybody else, if you're going to shoot me with my hands in the air, I'm going to try and run for my life. And that's what he did, and then took 14 more. In the back, they said that he appeared to pull a gun on them, of course, but didn't have their body cams going because they were supposed to be on special duty monitoring a metropolitan senior housing high-rise building on a Sunday morning. That's what they were posted to be doing. And so if you're a special duty officer in Akron, Ohio, basically a rent-a-cop, if you want to say that, you don't have to have your body cam on. So even though you have a gun and you're capable of killing somebody, but I did have an eyewitness that saw my Muhammad never pulling a gun, never posing a threat, nothing. And then I also have a video from a business across the street. The big deal is it's grainy and it's far away. Yes, it wasn't meant to catch Bonnie and Clyde having target practice on my Muhammad on a Sunday morning. So, but it does show you, and you can see enough of it that they're saying Muhammad like turned at the last minute and pulled a gun on him. You can clearly see him in a forward motion and fall down flat on his face. There was never any turning. And that's just one thing. They tried to say, oh, he ducked down when he saw us coming. Well, how would he know it was you if you were in an unmarked white Ford Taurus? So I could go on with all the discrepancies. These are just a few of the things that can be pulled out of that video that Judge Ruiz dismissed. They did turn on their body cams after killing him, long enough for me to see them harassing him, standing over him and saying, nice shot. And, oh, yeah, the one officer, he zigged when he should have zagged, and laughing while they're putting him in the coroner's van, ripping his pants down around his ankles and leaving him in a field in 15-degree weather, no barricades, no tent, no blanket, no nothing. Yeah, it's great. Well, then, since they didn't have body cams, they didn't bother to tell us anything about what happened. The only reason I knew anything was because that eyewitness got in touch with me over Facebook. They actually took 504 days to present my daughter and I with the case file. Because they knew that
that's a year and a half. To put an in that. That's a year and a half.
That's a year and a half, 504 days that my daughter and I went without knowing, except for what the eyewitness told us. And we're seeing all this stuff coming out in the papers. He had a gun, he pulled a gun, you know, this and that. And of course, with the name Muhammad, you know, they took full opportunity to make him out to be the terrorist of the century, and he was going to bomb Akron, and thank you, Akron police, for saving Akron. Oh, yeah. So part of that was we had to come through the grand jury, and they wouldn't give us the file until grand jury was clear. Of course, the grand jury did not call my eyewitness to testify. Therefore, they cleared the officers and gave a no bill for his grand jury. Absolutely. Yeah. The witness called me up and he says, Kim, is it grand jury today? I said, yeah. Where the hell are you? And he says, I'm sitting home on my couch. I said, you never got a letter, a subpoena, a phone call, a text, something in the mail, a cop beating on your door, anything? Nothing. I am sitting on my couch. I knew then. That grand jury's going to clear those officers, and they sure did.
Let me ask you this. Because we're starting to move up against the clock.
Okay.
You alluded to, and it's been 6 years now since Muhammad's case and his incident, but you've alluded to the support that the Stolen Lives circle has been for you. You now are on the other side of that, and you are part of a network of families that are embracing other families who've gone through a situation like yours. How has that been for you?
It's kind of a double-edged sword, I have to admit. And I think the biggest reason why is because we all deal with this in different ways. We all grieve differently. Some of us are more fiery individuals and want to fight and don't care that, you know, everybody says, oh, you're going to ruin your case. I've never shut up. I even tell my lawyer, I'm going to counsel tonight to tee off against, you know, the Akron police, just letting you know what I'm doing. And he'll text me back, good, go do it. Or I'm going to be on this podcast tonight with Baba Saeed, just letting you know. Okay, yeah, tell him, you know. So, and he was livid when he found out that the case was tossed. So, but getting back to stolen lives, it's been a blessing because, you know, especially within the past year for me, I've come into this, like, I finally figured out that this is what I was meant to do. Like, this is my calling. And even though I was thrown into it in the most tragic of circumstances, I feel like, okay, Muhammad picked me all those many years ago without knowing that he needed me to be the one to do this for him now.
Good God.
And so it puts me in touch with other families, and it helps me to be able to reach out to them. It helps me to be able to help them honor their loved ones and help pull them through this process. Whereas I didn't really have anybody. So it gives me the opportunity to not only continue to fight for my Muhammad fiercely and loyally, but it also offers me the opportunity to help others where I didn't have that help. And, you know, it's, again, it's just so important to keep bringing these victims to light, and to continue to honor them and their families and bring out their stories of truth and try to bring some kind of comfort or support, especially to those like myself who are unheard of.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm very, I said at the top of this conversation, I'm very proud of and how you've had to carry this weight in the singular way that you've had to carry it. And you've done it in a way that a lot of us absolutely appreciate, because this is the kind of thing that destroys families, destroys them. I've seen it.
It's destroyed mine.
We can do a whole show on how trauma rips through families when these kind of things go down, and it just, you know, that's another. I just wanted to use that point to amplify the comfort and healing and support dimensions of the ceremony and of the circle and of the network. Kathie, give us a rundown on some of the families, because we have I think you have 6 coming in so far. 2 are from New Jersey, or from this area. We'll make sure we highlight who some of those families are, and of course we have another week before the ceremony comes back. We can actually perhaps look at a part 2, or you know, another support moment for this before January 11th. Tell us about some of the families coming aboard this year.
Well, the 2 Jersey families are the mother of Najee Seabrooks, and the mother of the son of Hassani Best. So those are 2 Jersey families, and we have another Ohio family who's also a Kim, the mother of Kamani Kodak Davis, killed by Ohio State Patrol. And we have another widow who, it was her husband and their 2 friends who were killed by Wisconsin. I have to look at the name of the town. Monona? I'm not familiar with it. The Wisconsin police. And we have the mother of Preston Graham, killed by Corpus Christi police. And we have the grandson of Philip Hatley, who was killed in 1939 by Memphis, Tennessee police. So this is during Jim Crow. And they have a whole, they don't have any photos of their grandfather, but they knew how he was murdered by the police there. So, so those are the 6 families we have who we're planning to. Hopefully, they'll all make it. And I'll be posting an updated flyer once I get all the pictures. I mean, I'm not sure what we'll do with about Philip Hadley, but I think we'll probably just get maybe a photo of the website to memorialize him. So we're hoping that people will tune in. Again, it's January 11th at 5 o'clock Eastern time, and the short link is tinyurl. Hold on, I gotta look for it again. tinyurl.com, Stolen Lives 2026, basically. So if you go to our website, you can find it from there. It's also streaming from Facebook, which now I'm not sure if that's a good idea based on what happened with just now.
I got it on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
We have YouTube. It's going to be live streamed both on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube is more reliable.
Yeah.
It's not meditative.
I didn't set it up, and Louis set that up, so hopefully it works.
Let me put a pin on two of those stories, though, because they're important for this area. I want to remind folks that just as when Hassani's case came down, we had just lost at the state Supreme Court level. This is August 7th, several years ago, of our push for our civilian review board here in Newark, with the powers that we originally invested in, which includes subpoena power, community-driven character, a disciplinary matrix, some very strong things that would have made the Newark CCRB the strongest civilian complaint review board in the country. Hassani gets killed the day after that decision came down. It's incredible. His wife, his partner and mother of his child, lived in the Bronx and had a hand in a long series of protests that took place in Asbury. And Asbury ain't nowhere near the Bronx. For about a year and a half. In a way, she was another one. She was, very proud of Kay, but but this also hurt Kay deeply. So she ultimately, went through a public withdrawal that's consistent with trauma, in dealing with it. So we're glad that Kay is coming back into a public space and willing to be received and honored and treated in this way. Najee Seabrooks was a community-based violence interventionist with the Patterson Healing Collective, right? Who thought he was doing the right thing by calling his team and calling what he thought would be a respectful Patterson Police Department based on the work that they do. Unfortunately, that's not what happened. The Patterson Police Department hijacked that scene and took that young man out in less than 3 hours just because they didn't have time to be here all day with his situation, right? But out of that came the Najee Seabrooks, Andrew Washington bill, which is to put forward $2 million per program in 6 different counties, community-led crisis response teams, to be a part of the mix of first responders to people in mental health crises instead of the police, right? So, protest does matter for folks questioning whether or not it still does or doesn't. And I actually was supposed to be starting to work directly with the Patterson Healing Collective as they develop their own arm of that particular formation for their particular county. So I just want to put a pin in that. Jonathan, we want to jump on in.
I was going to say, I really appreciate, based on like all the conversations we've had tonight, the importance of community and the conscious effort to build community where you are, because ultimately that's the strength. The strength is that the government is lying. They're trying to tear down people. And ultimately, when we talk now about the current political situation, I think that what I appreciated most from Chairman Hamm's conversation and Dr. Kelly Harris's conversation is this isn't new. The ways in which we have been living under the state being able to murder us and get away with it, and try to get away with it, and having to push back against it, because you are organizing to push back against the power of government and building community around that, and that's important more now than ever. like more now than ever, because I think we should all be trained to look at what you are doing, what you are building, and understanding that's what we should have been doing all along anyway, because your struggle is all of our struggle, because what they can do to one, they do to another, and it doesn't matter what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're out protesting or just walking down the street or just being yourself, right? If you look a certain way, if you are a certain way, if you catch someone on the wrong day, people abuse their power. Then they do it on different levels, and it always has to be checked. So
just
thank you.
getting gas. Or just getting gas.
Which is
Right, or just
John,
getting gas.
Right. Yes.
Before Kathie and Kim leave, we have to ask the all-important question. I know, Kim, you've been here before. Is this Kathie's first time?
Yeah, no, Kathie's been on before.
I've been on a few times before.
Okay, so this is my first time with you. I know I've been with Kim when she gave us the outcome of the case. I remember being here with
Right, right.
With that being said, as we go into 2026, as you continue to do the work in the community, for stolenlives.org or whatever community work you're doing, is there a hip hop artist or individual that you listen to that keeps you inspired to continue to do that work? Kathie, you want to go first?
I can't think who I've been listening to more recently. I mean, there are like the local people I know that I love. So like Spirit Child, Peace Poets, and Gen Dog. I like Black Star, PE, like maybe the older stuff. I don't listen to a lot of new music. I'm getting old.
That's who you listen to. So you're broadening and by helping us listen to new artists as well. What about you, Kim?
Well, you wouldn't think by everything that I'm about that I would be hip hop, but the secret to Kim, there's always a secret. I've been a trained dancer, and not an exotic dancer, a trained dancer by a member of the Joffrey Ballet since age 3. Wow. So I got exposed to a lot of different music, and not only ballet. I was in jazz too. Yeah, I got moves, just none of you have ever seen them. But I know last time I said TLC and Janet Jackson, but I'm gonna read I just got it right. I got moves. So does she, Janet. I even got my Janet Justice for Mo hat here. Everybody says when I wear this, I look like Janet. The white Italian Janet. Okay. But anyways, so this is the test. No struggle, no progress. Lend a hand to help your brother do his best. Things are getting worse. We have to make them better. It's time to give a damn. Let's work together. Janet. Saying it back in the 90s, people. She was saying that in the 90s.
Right. That's right.
Let's give a damn. Let's work together. Rhythm Nation, baby.
All right.
Well, thank you. And thank you for another week. And I'd like to thank all of our guests. Thank Pastrami in Politics, Rahaman Muhammad, and Alturrick Kenney. And also thank you to Chairman Lawrence Hamm and Dr. Kelly Harris. Right. And also thank you to both of our guests.
The young brother. What's the young
right
brother?
Now. Oh, also Drixon Kaiser. Thank you to Drixon Kaiser as well. Excellent. We'll definitely have to have you back on and have you back on to co-host the entire show, not just a segment of it.
And Jonathan, before we close, I just wanted to give condolences. I know if everybody knows, on 12th Street is the big shelter right there that sits between probably 12th and South Orange, and 12th and 13th actually on South 12th Street, right across from the graveyard. Pastor, if you know Delonte Bass, I didn't know that was his grandfather, but Pastor Tommy Durer, who was the founder of that shelter, that for people who are home, anybody who is homeless, you probably can go there and get a room, whether it be a month or to how long you need to stay there. He has gone on to glory as of January 1st, and he's done tremendous work, feeding the community, clothing the community, housing the community.
This is Delonte's grandfather that started the shelter.
Right, that's what Delonte posted. I didn't realize that, but he said it was his grandfather. But Pastor Durr, he's done a lot of great work in the community, and I know a lot of people have made donations there, and it was right in the heart of the community. So thank you for the work and to see what's going on. But he passed.
Donna, are you in touch with Delonte?
Yes, I can.
Please give him our regards, and we need to probably have a conversation about the future of that shelter.
Oh, and Delonte was also, we'll connect with him. I'll tell him to connect.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And until next week, we will see you soon. Be careful, be safe, and peace.
We'll see you next week.
Thank you for having us.
Whirlwind. And you don't stop.